Chapter 504. Leng Shiqi was not whimsical. When he broke through to the Spirit Pulse realm in the Yao Miasma mountain range, he fused 3 cultivation methods together, which was the Heaven Fiend 9 Hell Demonic Beast Sacrificial Blood Record. The name of this cultivation method was long enough and seemed very powerful, but compared to Leng Shiqi's various powerful cultivation methods, it was not enough. There weren't many rank 6 cultivation methods. The 7 Fiend Blood Slaughter Art was a complete rank 7 cultivation method, and the 10,000 Spirit Devouring Art was a complete rank 8 cultivation method. These weren't things that the Heaven Fiend 9 Nether Demon Beast Sacrificial Blood Record could compare with. But then again, for Leng Shiqi, the 7 Fiend Blood Slaughter Art played more of a supporting role. The 10,000 Spirit Devouring technique was even less useful. This cultivation method needed to be combined with a large number of goo worms with different characteristics to display its true power. Leng Shiqi did not have many goo worms left, and they were all relatively low level and were not very useful. The Goo King was very convenient to use, and because of this he did not need to use the 10,000 Spirit Devouring technique at all to use the Goo King at will. Therefore, Leng Shiqi wanted to use the Heaven Fiend 9 Hell Demonic Beast Sacrificial Blood Record as a foundation to create his own cultivation method. This was because he always had to be on guard against one person, and that was the system. When Leng Shiqi broke through to the Spirit Aperture realm, he had erased the consciousness of the system. However, before the consciousness of the system died, he had always been worried. Perhaps the consciousness of the system would reappear in the future. He was not blindly thinking. Every time he sold an item to the system, a small part of a strange power would appear in his body. So where did the rest of the power go? Leng Shiqi guessed that the power might have been absorbed by the consciousness of the system. It was just that the consciousness of the system was still very weak and could not be detected by him. And if he wanted to deal with the consciousness of the system, the cultivation methods that he cultivated from the system would be useless. Leng Shiqi also knew this, but if he did not use the system to cultivate, even if he was given a few years, he might not be able to comprehend all of the high-level cultivation methods that he had. If he wanted to increase his strength as quickly as possible, he had no choice but to use the system. This seemed to be a paradox, but Leng Shiqi had found a way to guard against the system's consciousness and make use of the system at the same time. That was to fuse cultivation techniques. Just like how fused spiritual techniques could be used to deal with the system's consciousness, as long as he fused a high-grade cultivation method, he would have the upper hand in the next battle with the system. Of course, the system's consciousness was only Leng Shiqi's imaginary enemy, but even if he guessed wrong, it was better to be safe than sorry. Moreover, the fusion of the cultivation techniques this time wouldn't be too difficult, because he planned to upgrade and expand the foundation of the Heaven Fiend 9 Hell Demonic Beast Sacrificial Blood Record. The Celestial Fiend 9 Serenity's Demon Beast's Crimson Blood Record contained a part of the 7 Fiend Blood Art. Now that Leng Shiqi had the complete 7 Fiend Blood Art, he could use this as a breakthrough. But before that, Leng Shiqi still had one more thing to do, and that was to recuperate. Just now, when he cultivated the ancient wild beast divine body, he still consumed a lot of spiritual power and blood, so he still had to adjust his state before trying to fuse the cultivation techniques. 3 days later, with the help of elixirs and high-grade resources, Leng Shiqi's injuries had mostly healed. At the same time, he hadn't been idle during these 3 days. The primordial spirit in the Sea of Consciousness had also been deducing the cultivation techniques. The progress was relatively smooth and he could already try it. Next, the first thing Leng Shiqi had to do was to integrate the complete 7 Fiend Blood Art into the Celestial Fiend 9 Hell Demonic Beast Sacrificial Blood Record. Doing so might cause the cultivation techniques to be unbalanced, and Leng Shiqi had to integrate the Desolation Seal and the ancient wild beast divine body before the cultivation techniques were unbalanced. Leng Shiqi began to operate the cultivation techniques in his body, and a faint demonic chi rose around his body. A few light green demonic chi appeared in his eyes, and several blood-red lines appeared on his body. Immediately, those blood-red lines suddenly expanded, almost covering 2/3 of his body, and the demonic chi were suppressed. Leng Shiqi suddenly felt the spiritual power in his body gradually become violent, and his blood was constantly surging. He knew that this was caused by the imbalance of the cultivation techniques. This was just the beginning. If he continued, the situation in his body would only get worse and worse. Therefore, Leng Shiqi knew that he didn't have much time. With a thought, his body suddenly underwent a huge change. His skin quickly darkened, and a burst of evil chi came out of his body. Horns grew on his head, arms grew on his back, and a long tail stretched out behind him. The shadow of an evil beast flashed behind him, and Leng Shiqi's spiritual power suddenly surged. The ancient wild beast divine body. This was not the end of it. After Leng Shiqi transformed, he used the seal of desolation, and the back of his body lit up with runes that emitted a wild aura. His muscles seemed to be on the verge of exploding, and his strength increased by another level. At this moment, Leng Shiqi's demonic qi, evil qi and wild aura intertwined, rising and falling one after another and collided with each other. It was easier said than done to fuse these spiritual powers together. Leng Shiqi was not in a hurry. Instead, he didn't care about these things. He saw the demonic qi that had been suppressed before appear again, and compete with the three powers. What was even crazier was that Leng Shiqi's eyes instantly turned emerald green, and pure demonic qi shot out like two laser beams. In fact, Leng Shiqi did not have much demonic qi, but when he was condensing his primordial spirit, the heavenly demon soul crystal inexplicably merged with his primordial spirit. Therefore, from a certain point of view, Leng Shiqi already had a part of the demon soul, which was why he could mobilize pure demonic qi. But in this way the three powers in the room became five. Demonic qi, wild aura and demonic qi. And what Leng Shiqi had to do was to fuse these five spiritual powers. This kind of thing might not be impossible in the future, but it was definitely unprecedented. Who could have these five powers at the same time? If Leng Shiqi did not have the system, he would have exploded and died. Leng Shiqi's idea was crazy enough, but he was not reckless and he would never be reckless. First, he familiarly fused the demonic qi and blood fiend qi. Moreover, the process went very smoothly because it was the combination of these three powers that created the heavenly fiend 9 underworld demonic beast blood roar record. On the other side, although the demonic qi and wild aura did not fuse so smoothly, there was no rejection. This was also the reason why Leng Shiqi chose the wild beast godly body technique. This technique had been passed down for a long time, and it had some characteristics of ancient techniques, which was similar to the desolate seal. Moreover, the desolate seal was not a technique but a secret technique, so it was not difficult to fuse it with the wild beast godly body. Not long after, Leng Shiqi successfully fused the two together, and he was ready to welcome the most difficult step of fusing the techniques. Chapter 505. On the left side of Leng Shiqi, there was a mass of gray spiritual energy. It was a mass of spiritual energy that contained blood qi, devil qi, and demon qi. On the right side there was a light brown gas. It was a strange energy that was born from the combination of evil qi and the Manghuang seal. What Leng Shiqi had to do now, which was the most important part, was to fuse these two completely different forces. The gray gas on the left was relatively balanced and well-behaved, but the one on the right was very violent. If it weren't for Leng Shiqi's full control, it would have blown up his small courtyard. Leng Shiqi tried to slowly bring the two forces together. At first it was relatively smooth. After all, Leng Shiqi had been fusing spiritual techniques for many years, and his control of spiritual energy was very strong. But when he was halfway through, he suddenly felt an extremely strong rejection between the two. If he wanted to fuse them directly, it would not work. Leng Shiqi sighed slightly. If that was the case, then he had to use another method. He controlled the gray spiritual energy on the left to float and slowly revolve around the light brown energy. As the gray spiritual energy revolved, it constantly condensed and became a little sticky. In the end, the gray spiritual energy turned into something similar to a spiritual spiral and wrapped around the other force. He was imitating the method used to fuse the Great Brightness Fist and Black Lotus Demon Fist. Since these two completely opposite forces could be fused, it should be easier now. Whether it was the devil qi or the evil qi, they were both yin forces. In terms of their roots, they were still similar. The only difficult thing to deal with was the Manghuang seal. So Leng Shiqi formed a spring with the light brown energy as the center, and the gray spiritual energy was equivalent to the spiritual spiral. As the two intertwined, they slowly approached each other. Leng Shiqi's eyes focused on where they intersected. Closer, closer. The spiritual spiral and the spring were finally connected. This time there was no rejection like before. Leng Shiqi's eyes suddenly lit up with joy. However, he immediately suppressed this joy. The Heaven Fiend 9 held demonic beast blood scripture in his body was now out of balance, and his blood was surging even more violently. Moreover, he was also maintaining his ancient wild beast god body transformation. He was constantly consuming his spirit force and stamina, and he was enduring great pain. Moreover, this was only the beginning. The later stages would definitely be more difficult. He couldn't afford to be distracted in the slightest. Leng Shiqi's next step was to completely merge the light brown spring into his spiritual spiral. He used his mind to control the two types of energy. The gray spiritual energy gradually gathered while the light brown spring gradually dispersed and began to rotate with each other. This was a good sign. Lung Shiqi endured the pain in his body as he continued to fuse the two powers. Unknowingly, his clothes were drenched in sweat. He didn't notice it at all. He was completely focused. His face showed signs of fatigue, but the light in his eyes kept flashing. After an unknown period of time, the two balls of energy became more and more viscous, and their original color became a faint black. At first glance, it looked like a black millstone was floating in front of Lung Shiqi, slowly rotating. Lung Shiqi saw that the time was right. He suddenly put his hands together, and the black millstone suddenly twisted, as if a pair of invisible hands were constantly kneading it. "Gather!" Lung Shiqi shouted sternly. Majestic spirit force swarmed out, forming a small invisible storm around him. A trace of blood flowed out from the corners of his eyes. He had pushed his spirit force to the extreme. The spirit storm condensed and forcibly suppressed the black millstone. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. In the end, the black millstone no longer existed, leaving only a fist-sized ball of faint black water in the air. In fact, this was not a ball of water, but a purine force that was born after the fusion of 5 types of energy and the extreme compression. Finally, it's a success. Lung Shiqi no longer hid his excitement. He opened his mouth and swallowed the ball of water. Then the faint black force immediately merged into his limbs and bones. The violent spirit force and blood force in his body were instantly subdued. However, at this time, Lung Shiqi had not completely merged the techniques. But as long as the 5 types of spirit force were merged, the fusion of the techniques would naturally occur. Then Lung Shiqi simultaneously activated the Heaven Fiend 9 Hell Demonic Beast Blood Record, the complete version of the 7 Fiend Blood Art, the Ancient Wild Beast Divine Body, and the Desolation Seal. These different techniques did not interfere with each other at all and were extremely smooth. Chi-chi. At this moment, a low sound continued to sound. The surface of Lung Shiqi's skin was torn open, and large gray scales grew from it. Scales covered his entire body. Even his arms and tail were covered in scales. What was even more strange was that layers of black keratin were constantly growing. In the blink of an eye, a set of armor was formed on each of Lung Shiqi's key points. This included a fully wrapped helmet on his head. The helmet looked extremely fierce and was very similar to the face of a demonic beast. And each part of the armor was connected to each other by blood-colored lines, and each piece of armor was imprinted with a different number of blood-colored runes. These blood-colored lines and runes flickered, exuding a bloody and violent aura. And the overall feeling that Lung Shiqi gave off was that it was gloomy and terrifying. When all the changes stopped, it was as if endless power surged through his body. Lung Shiqi gently clenched his fist. With a muffled sound, he directly crushed the air. So strong. Lung Shiqi was pleasantly surprised. This technique combines several auras. Let's call it the Desolation Demonic Blood Beast Body. At this time, there was a strong fighting spirit surging in the depths of his body, making him want to find someone to fight now. Suddenly, a white and delicate fist containing terrifying demonic power arrived in the blink of an eye. This fist seemed to stir up the spirit force between heaven and earth, and the entire room collapsed in an instant. The person who came was Nine Leaf. Lung Shiqi didn't know why Nine Leaf suddenly attacked, but at this time his body was filled with endless fighting spirit. He gathered all his strength and didn't use any spirit techniques. He just threw out a simple punch. When the punch came out, a 200-foot-tall demonic beast phantom appeared behind Lung Shiqi, and the phantom also threw out a punch. Rumble. The two fists collided, and a terrifying and violent power suddenly erupted. The ground within a 1,000-foot radius cracked, and Lung Shiqi's small courtyard was directly torn apart by the force of the fist. However, all the things that were sent flying were blocked by purple light curtains when they flew 1,000 feet away. And between the two people fighting, Nine Leaf took 7 or 8 steps back, while Lung Shiqi was still standing in place. Looking carefully, there were several cracks on the armor on his fist, but even so, it was enough to prove the strength of Lung Shiqi. Nine Leaf clenched his fist, his red lips slightly opened, and his face was full of surprise. "You stinky brat, you actually have such terrifying power. What the hell did you do this time?" Chapter 506. After forcing Nine Leaf back with a punch, Lung Shiqi couldn't help but feel excited. However, he immediately put away these thoughts. Nine Leaf's punch didn't use any spiritual skills, just pure physical strength. It should be known that Nine Leaf was not a demon beast good at hand-to-hand combat. Now that he was in human form, his strength was reduced, so his pure strength was not very strong. Lung Shiqi couldn't be arrogant. But the simple punch just now also let him know that his strength after transformation was definitely stronger than a spirit cultivator who had just entered the gang spirit realm. Coupled with his high-level spiritual skills, he even dared to fight with a master in the middle stage of the gang spirit realm. Facing Nine Leaf's question, Lung Shiqi first saw that the small courtyard was covered by a purple light curtain. He cupped his fist and said, "Senior, thank you for covering for me." When he was fusing the cultivation method, he didn't make a big noise, but it wasn't small either. In particular, all kinds of strange auras were raging, and the waves also spread out a lot, so it alarmed Nine Leaf. She then set up a restriction to isolate all the waves. Nine Leaf waved his hand indifferently and walked slowly around Lung Shiqi, muttering from time to time, "TSK, you really know how to make trouble. You're brave enough to refine the evil beast." That's also because Senior's super strength killed the evil beast, which gave me the opportunity to refine it. Now you're talking nicely. You'd better think about how to deal with the aftermath first. Nine Leaf pointed to the mess around and said. Lung Shiqi removed the wild evil demon blood beast body with a wry smile on his face. Previously he only wanted to fight and didn't care about anything else. Now, including his small courtyard, a large area had been destroyed to the point that it was unbearable to look at. This was not a casual place, this was the Formless Palace. If Formless knew that he almost tore down the Formless Palace, who knew what he would do? Lung Shiqi hurriedly went to find the two disciples who took care of the small courtyard. Fortunately, they had been driven out by Nine Leaf and were not affected. "There's a problem with my cultivation method. Find some people to fix this place as soon as possible," Lung Shiqi ordered. The two of them didn't dare to ask any more questions and just went to carry out the order. Lung Shiqi immediately activated Supercilious Eyes. It was good news that he didn't see Sulwan in Formless Palace. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to explain things to Sulwan. Nine Leaf said sarcastically, "Someone was afraid that I would cause trouble in the Blood Garment Pavilion, and in the end, he almost caused trouble himself. He even needed me to help cover it up." Lung Shiqi also realized that Nine Leaf did not have a fixed temperament. It was as if everything depended on her mood. In the past, Nine Leaf had never been so sarcastic to him. As the saying goes, a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. It seems like this sentence is also applicable to demonic beasts. Lung Shiqi pretended not to hear anything and said, "Senior, I'm going to prepare to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame. We can leave in 7 or 8 days at most. Go do whatever you want. Just call me when you need to leave." Lung Shiqi turned and left. He couldn't stay in this small courtyard any longer, so he planned to go find Bing Shang. It was good to get in touch with the materials needed to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame early. After asking around, he finally found Bing Shang's residence. Bing Shang was a bit surprised to see Lung Shiqi. "Brother Lung, why are you here? But you came at the right time. I also have a question for you." "There's no harm in asking." Lung Shiqi nodded. Bing Shang asked, "How strong is Brother Lung's body?" "Brother Lung, please answer truthfully. This has a lot to do with whether or not you can refine the pure gold earth dragon flame." Refining the pure gold earth dragon flame was related to one's body. Lung Shiqi had already thought of this. That was why he continued to cultivate high-level body refining techniques. However, he really couldn't say for sure how strong his body was. After he transformed into the wild evil demon blood beast body, his strength was off the charts. However, his body under normal conditions was far weaker. He could only say, "I've also cultivated body refining techniques. However, it's hard to say how strong my body is. Is there any standard?" "Aha." Bing Shang paused. "Brother Lung, please wait." Then he took out a cyan lamp from his mustard seed bag. "Brother Lung, I'll use this thing to release some flames. This kind of flame is quite powerful, so don't resist it. Let's see how long you can last." "Understood. Come." Under Bing Shang's spirit power, the green lamp spat out Qin Yen. The temperature in the room rose rapidly. The flames swept through the air. Lung Shiqi was in the sea of flames. Feeling the heat of the flames, he felt it was just SOSO. He even wanted to say, "That's it?" Seeing that Lung Shiqi's expression didn't change, Bing Shang was stunned. He thought that there was something wrong with the flame. He subconsciously reached out and was frightened by the high temperature of the flames. Bing Shang couldn't help but reveal a look of shock and admiration. When he first entered the spirit vein realm, he assassinated a genius disciple of the Tang family. His name shook the Donglin County and he was known as the most outstanding genius in the Donglin County branch. At that time, Leng Shiqi was only at the mid-stage of the spirit transformation realm. He was just a small assassin in black. They weren't even in the same world. However, after a few years their statuses had changed. Bing Shang didn't feel any jealousy. After all, he had seen Leng Shiqi's abnormal talent and strength in the illusion spirit secret realm. However, Bing Shang had never thought Leng Shiqi's body would be so strong. He was bathed in flames but didn't seem to be affected. This was too terrifying. Bing Shang knew that Leng Shiqi was a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts. Now it seemed that he was a triple cultivator of spirit martial arts, spirit cultivation and spirit body. Bing Shang was also surprised. If Leng Shiqi's body was strong enough, it would be easier for him to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame. As long as Leng Shiqi could successfully refine the pure gold earth dragon flame, Bing Shang would be able to obtain a great reward from the Black Frost Ghost Man. Brother Leng's body is so strong. I admire it, but I still have to test Brother Leng's limit. Please don't blame me. With that, Bing Shang's spirit force surged and the Qinyan quickly grew stronger. Leng Shiqi finally felt a trace of heat. He suddenly remembered that Lei Mian had said that the various hardships they experienced in the small five-element Chaos Grotto Heaven would make them invulnerable to fire and water. He thought, it seems my body already has a very high fire resistance. He signaled Bing Shang to continue strengthening the flames. Two crystal-clear spirit veins lit up beside Bing Shang's ears. He was using his full strength. Hoo-hoo, the raging flames even caused a whistling sound. Layers of formations flashed in the room. Even Bing Shang himself had to back away from the Qinyan. He looked over and found that Leng Shiqi was still standing in the sea of flames with a smile. Chapter 507. Bing Shang's mind almost went blank. Leng Shiqi's power was beyond his knowledge again and again. He couldn't help but ask, Brother Leng, are you okay? There's some burning pain but it's still acceptable, Leng Shiqi said lightly. Bing Shang's mouth twitched. He said in a complicated tone, then let's stop here. If we increase the power of the flame, the formations here won't be able to handle it. Then how strong is my body? Leng Shiqi asked sincerely. However, Bing Shang thought that Leng Shiqi was showing off his physical body. He praised, Brother Leng's physical body is the strongest I've ever seen. Once everything is arranged, I dare say that Brother Leng has a 70% chance of successfully refining the Crimson Gold Earth Dragon Flame. 70%? This probability was actually quite high, but there was still a risk of failure. Leng Shiqi secretly decided to take advantage of the 6 or 7 days to increase his physical strength and cultivate the cold air, striving to increase the probability of success. Bing Shang put away the Qinyan and said, Brother Leng, go rest. I'll take care of the materials. Leng Shiqi was an outsider in this. Even if he wanted to help, he couldn't. Then I'll leave everything to you. Don't worry, Brother Leng. Then Bing Shang arranged a secret room for Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi didn't dare to waste any time. He immediately activated the wild demon blood beast body to refine his body. At the same time, waves of red cold energy rose around him and kept changing forms. Time slowly passed as Leng Shiqi cultivated. 7 days later, Bing Shang knocked on Leng Shiqi's secret room. Leng Shiqi knew the time was right. Brother Leng, all the materials are set up. Come with me. Bing Shang took Leng Shiqi through layers of formations and into an extremely cold ice cave. Bing Shang introduced, this is where Master used to cultivate. Now that he's given it to me, it's a great place to refine the flame. The moment Leng Shiqi entered the ice cave, he was greeted with a bone-piercing cold wind. He could completely endure it, but if it was an ordinary spirit aperture stage cultivator, they would have to activate their spirit armor to barely withstand it. If he refined the red gold earth dragon flame here, it would be much easier. This is a great place. This time it's all thanks to Brother Bing. Bing Shang said a few polite words and formed a series of seals. A huge light blue array appeared in the ice cave. Once the array appeared, all the cold energy in the area was gathered into the array. The power of the ice instantly increased by several times. To refine a heaven and earth variant of the fire element, the environment is very important. With the existence of the ice cave and the formation, the environment is already perfect. Bing Shang changed the topic, but that's not enough. I have 2 frost pills here. After consuming them, they'll form cold energy in your body. They'll protect your meridians. Although this pill can help Brother Lung in the last step, before that, Brother Lung will have to endure the pain of the cold energy entering your body. Lung Shiqi was already numb to the word pain. He took the frost pill and said, "As long as I can refine the red gold earth dragon flame, this pain is nothing." Bing Shang took out a small pile of materials. 80% of them were ice-type materials. There was also a small amount of wood-type materials. He waved his hands and a dense pure white cold energy enveloped all the materials. Lung Shiqi stared at the pure white cold energy. That was Bing Shang's zero-bound ice. Its biggest characteristic was that it had an extremely terrifying cold energy. It was a type of ice that could freeze flames. Bing Shang continued. He used the cold energy to freeze all the materials. Then he crushed them into powder. Then he reformed them into an ice blue bed. There were traces of green light around the ice bed. It gave people a feeling of vitality. Seeing Bing Shang's method, Lung Shiqi was quite shocked. This was a different method of refining. Unfortunately, he didn't know anything about refining, so he couldn't explain it. He could only say, "Amazing." Bing Shang took out a few more pills and said, "Brother Ling, these pills are very effective healing pills. If you can't take it in the end, take it. But that means the refining will fail." Lung Shiqi looked at the pills. Of course, he didn't want to use them. "If Brother Lung is ready, then sit on the ice bed. We can start at any time." Lung Shiqi took a deep breath. He closed his eyes and took a few breaths to get rid of all the distracting thoughts. Then he sat on the ice bed. Bing Shang's 10 fingers shot out extremely cold threads. They formed an ice net above Lung Shiqi's head. "Brother Lung, release the pure gold earth dragon flame. Our first step is to suppress its flames." Lung Shiqi nodded. His body also emitted a crimson cold energy. The cold energy condensed into pieces of ice crystals. Then a cloak made of holy energy appeared behind him. He clenched his fists. A blinding light shone, making him look very holy. This wasn't the end. The Goo King flew out of the pet space and turned into a set of 5-colored glaze armor. It covered Lung Shiqi's body tightly. Bing Shang was slightly surprised when he saw the crimson cold energy. However, he didn't dare to be distracted. He formed a seal with his hands and looked like he was facing a great enemy. Lung Shiqi opened the system space. With a thought, a crimson gold flame suddenly appeared. The moment the flame appeared, it violently churned. It was like a wild horse that had been restrained for a long time. As the flame burned, the surrounding air rapidly twisted. When it met the crimson ice around Lung Shiqi, half of it melted. Under the suppression of the ice cave and the formation, the temperature of the pure gold earth dragon flame was even more terrifying than Lung Shiqi expected. Just as the pure gold earth dragon flame was about to go berserk, Bing Shang made his move. The extreme cold ice net fell from the sky, trapping Lung Shiqi and the crimson gold earth dragon flame. Zero-bound ice was also a natural variant. The ice net it turned into was not normal. When it came into contact with the pure gold earth dragon flame, it didn't evaporate. Instead, there were sizzling sounds. Lung Shiqi saw that the pure gold earth dragon flame had calmed down. He knew he couldn't take advantage of it. He used the secret method in the jade slip that Bing Shang gave him. He quickly sent rays of light into the pure gold earth dragon flame. Shortly after, the crimson gold earth dragon flame's volume suddenly swelled, and its volume seemed to have increased by several tens of times. But strangely, the temperature of the pure gold earth dragon flame dropped a bit. At this moment, the ice bed under Lung Shiqi trembled. Endless cold energy poured out, forming layers of protection that kept Lung Shiqi safe. This method was to divide the pure gold earth dragon flame and then slowly consume it. Bing Shang nodded at Lung Shiqi, indicating that he could start refining the pure gold earth dragon flame. Chapter 508. Lung Shiqi's breathing was slightly hurried. He changed the seal in his hand and attracted a wisp of flame from the huge flame. It was only a wisp of crimson gold earth dragon flame, but it contained a terrifying heat that made him sweat profusely. This was completely different from the green flame he had to endure before. Fortunately, there was a lot of cold air and formations around him, so the flame couldn't hurt him at all. Then Lung Shiqi reached out his hand. After a layer of crimson ice crystals covered it, he actually grabbed the flame. After the flame was grasped, it immediately became restless. It trembled violently in Lung Shiqi's hand, causing the crimson ice crystals in his hand to melt into nothingness. Immediately after, the great light fist force flashed incessantly, finally suppressing this wisp of flame. Lung Shiqi let this strand of crimson gold earth dragon flame float beside him, then he stretched out his hand and pulled out another strand of flame. After a while, a small ball of crimson gold earth dragon flame gathered in front of him. This was a flame that he had completely subdued. Of course, this was only a temporary subjugation. Once Leng Shiqi's frost aura or great light fist force were exhausted, the crimson gold earth dragon flames would immediately devour him. "Brother Leng, it's about time." Bing Shang's voice was transmitted over. However, this time, his voice sounded a little lacking in confidence. Clearly, Bing Shang had consumed a lot of energy from controlling the zero-bound ice for a long time. Leng Shiqi didn't have much time left. Leng Shiqi's face showed some desperation. He then controlled the crimson gold earth dragon flame around him and wrapped it around himself. In an instant, all the crimson ice crystals were burned to nothing. Even the great light fist force was flickering. Fortunately, he still had the five-colored armor to protect him from being devoured by the crimson gold earth dragon flame. Leng Shiqi's eyes turned pale. He could see a fingernail-sized flame seed in the center of the crimson gold earth dragon flame. His next step was to take out the flame seed. This meant that Leng Shiqi was going to enter the red gold earth dragon flame alone. This kind of thing was impossible under normal circumstances, but Leng Shiqi had already controlled a portion of the crimson gold earth dragon flame. He wanted to use the crimson gold earth dragon flame to resist the crimson gold earth dragon flame. As long as he could buy enough time to retrieve the fire seed, it would be fine. Leng Shiqi didn't dare to waste any time. Both he and Bing Shang's spirit energy was quickly depleting. Thunder exploded under his feet as he used the purple extreme lightning steps and charged at the red gold earth dragon flame. At the same time, Bing Shang roared and pushed the zero-bound ice to its limit. Pure white ice crystals tore a hole in the red gold earth dragon flame. Leng Shiqi took this opportunity to dive into the red gold earth dragon flame. Entering the flames, he felt as if he had fallen into a fiery hell. His entire body was scorching hot, causing his skin to turn scarlet red. The temperature of the red gold earth dragon flame once again shocked Leng Shiqi. His movements were not slow as he walked towards the fire seed that was locked onto by the Byakugan. The fire seed seemed to have intelligence. It also sensed the dangerous aura and started to move slowly. However, the fire seed's speed was still too slow compared to Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi went straight for the fire seed and quickly grabbed it. He held something that seemed to be solid but not solid. The fire seed suddenly churned violently and the fire spirit energy in the world was mobilized by it. Unfortunately, this was the ice cave where Ink Frost Ghost Man once cultivated. There was also a formation in zero-bound ice, so there was very little fire spirit energy here. Even so, a crimson stream still appeared in the air. Fiery light flowed within, extremely dazzling. The red stream turned into a dragon and charged at Leng Shiqi. At this moment, a pure white ice spear suddenly appeared and charged into the red gold earth dragon flame and stopped the red gold earth dragon flame. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Leng Shiqi quickly retreated and left the red gold earth dragon flame. He then quickly dispersed the flames on his body. He looked down and saw a mini dragon-shaped flame wriggling in his palm. He could not help but murmur, "Is this the red gold earth dragon flame's fire seed?" Bing Shang said weakly, "Brother Leng, this matter should not be delayed. While I can still use zero-bound ice, quickly refine the fire seed." Leng Shiqi's expression became even more serious. This was the most crucial step. If he failed, everything would be for naught. And to refine the red gold earth dragon flame, the last step was to swallow the fire seed. This was also the most dangerous step. Spirit cultivators would not refine their bodies. Only very rare body cultivators would refine their bodies. Leng Shiqi believed that his body was not weak, but the inside of his body was still the weakest part. Swallowing the fire seed was equivalent to using the inside of his body to withstand the terrifying flames. Not to mention the red gold earth dragon flame, even if a random thing with a strange aura entered his body, it would be enough to kill him. But Leng Shiqi did not hesitate and swallowed the fire seed in one gulp. He always believed that danger and opportunity always coexisted. If he wanted to refine the red gold earth dragon flame to increase his strength, he would have to experience all kinds of life and death situations. When the fire seed entered his body, it was like a bomb exploding. Leng Shiqi's body trembled and even became a bit dazed. His face also became extremely pale. Fortunately, he had already swallowed the cold chi pill. There was already some cold chi in his body that protected his blood vessels and also slightly weakened a portion of the flames. But this was far from enough. Bing Shang made his move again. A pure white ice crystal appeared in his palm and he pressed it on Leng Shiqi's body. Then, threads of zero condensation ice seeped in and offset a small portion of the red gold earth dragon flame. Bing Shang said weakly, "Brother Leng, I can only help you up to here. The rest is up to you." Leng Shiqi did not say anything. His mind was completely immersed in his body. Under his inner vision, all the red gold earth dragon flame had already been dispersed to each of his spirit veins. Everywhere it went, it was crazily destroying his meridians. Even if his body was strong and there was cold chi protecting his body, there were still a few spirit veins that were damaged. And at this time, the benefits of Leng Shiqi opening up many spirit veins appeared. That was, it could greatly disperse the power of the red gold earth dragon flame. In just a few breaths of time, Leng Shiqi's body was almost completely destroyed. Outside, the green light around the ice bed drilled in. Bursts of life force entered his body and continuously repaired his spirit veins. At the same time, Leng Shiqi used a secret technique to continuously devour the red gold earth dragon flame through his spirit veins. As long as he devoured all the power of the fire seed, it would be the same as refining success. Time passed bit by bit. Leng Shiqi was experiencing inhuman pain every moment. His veins were bulging and his face was pale. Occasionally, his face would twist strangely a few times. It looked very horrifying. Gradually, the green light around the ice bed became fainter and the life force also decreased. The good news was that Leng Shiqi had already devoured most of the red gold earth dragon flame. Seeing that the life force was about to disappear, Leng Shiqi made a shocking move. Boom! A strange, cold, and powerful spirit pressure suddenly appeared. It instantly shattered the formation in the ice bed. Then a gray and black battle armor covered Leng Shiqi's body. Behind him, a demon phantom appeared. Wild demon blood beast physique. The terrifying aura of the ancient wilderness filled the ice cave. Bing Shang was frightened by Leng Shiqi's appearance and quickly retreated. Logically speaking, the red gold earth dragon flame was very effective against the wild demon blood beast physique. However, Leng Shiqi couldn't care less. He planned to imitate the evil old man's method of dealing with Buddha Lotus and use absolute strength to suppress the red gold earth dragon flame. Suppression existed, but when one's strength reached a certain level, this suppression would no longer exist. For example, if Bing Shang were to fight Extreme Fire Village's village lord Zhu Huarong could easily kill Bing Shang with one move. This was absolute suppression of strength. At this moment, the remaining crimson gold earth dragon flame in Leng Shiqi's body was already very weak. However, if he waited until his life force was exhausted and he still couldn't completely devour it, then half of his spirit veins would be burned away. This was equivalent to cutting off his future cultivation path. Therefore, Leng Shiqi could only choose to suppress and devour the red gold earth dragon flame. After transforming into the wild demon blood beast physique, the red gold earth dragon flame in his body became even more violent. However, Leng Shiqi's body also underwent a qualitative change. At the same time, he circulated his spirit energy and suppressed the red gold earth dragon flame with all his might. It works. Leng Shiqi saw that it was effective and was overjoyed. He quickly devoured the flame. After about half an incense's time, Leng Shiqi suddenly dispelled his transformation. His body also lost its balance and fell to the ground. Bing Shang subconsciously wanted to help Leng Shiqi up, but he suddenly stopped because a dazzling red gold earth dragon flame suddenly burst out of Leng Shiqi's body. The flame turned into a dragon that soared into the sky and roamed around. Everywhere it passed, large amounts of ice crystals melted and turned the ice cave into a river. Even the entire ice cave felt a bit warmer. Whoosh! The crimson gold earth dragon flames abruptly retracted back into Leng Shiqi's body. Leng Shiqi walked over with a ball of fire in his hand. Within the ball of fire, there was a faint image of a divine dragon spiraling around, but it was extremely docile in his hand. Bing Shang was shocked and said, "Congratulations on refining the red gold earth dragon flame, Brother Leng." Chapter 509. Leng Shiqi smiled, "It's all thanks to Brother Bing's help. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame." What he said was the truth. Actually, the materials that Bing Shang prepared didn't play a crucial role in the entire process. Whether it was the ice cave, the formation, or the ice bed, they were all just support. The most important thing was Bing Shang's zero-bound ice. If it wasn't for zero-bound ice, Leng Shiqi wouldn't have been able to go deep into the pure gold earth dragon flame to obtain the fire seed. It could also be said that if it wasn't for Bing Shang, he wouldn't have been able to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame. To Bing Shang, he might only be following Ink Frost Ghost Man's orders. However, Leng Shiqi still owed Bing Shang a huge favor. Bing Shang said, To be honest, when I refined zero-bound ice, it took me more than 10 years of preparation. I only finished it under my father's guidance. Brother Lung being able to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame in such a short time is truly admirable. After this matter, I will cultivate here for a while. Brother Lung, please do as you wish. Lung Shiqi knew that Bing Shang's spirit power was almost exhausted. He solemnly cupped his fist and said, I will return to Formless Palace first. If Brother Bing needs my help in the future, just let me know. After that, Lung Shiqi strode away and returned to Formless Palace. A few days later, Formless Palace was already renovated. It was almost exactly the same as before. Lung Shiqi had just returned to the small courtyard when he bumped into Nine Leaf. Who would have thought that Nine Leaf would frown and float back a few steps when she saw him? You really succeeded in refining it? However, the aura on your body makes me feel very uncomfortable. The pure gold earth dragon flame was very effective against all kinds of demons. Nine Leaf was no exception. Although she wasn't afraid, the aura of the pure gold earth dragon flame made her feel uneasy. Lung Shiqi scratched his head and said, this junior was only able to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame by luck. Once I can fully control it, I will be able to control it freely. Nine Leaf's beautiful eyes flashed with a purple light. I can see that your injuries aren't light. You should hurry up and recuperate. However, I will only wait for you for 3 days. It seemed that Nine Leaf had grown tired of staying in the Blood Garment Pavilion for the past 10 days. Lung Shiqi nodded and locked himself in his room. He sat down cross-legged and recuperated for a while. Then he looked inside his body and found that there were still some residual flames flowing in each of his spirit veins. However, the current flames were not as violent as before. Instead, they were unusually docile. What was even more bizarre was that wisps of crimson flames began to merge into the damaged spirit veins. These damaged spirit veins were like rain after rain. They slowly stretched out, and the dozens of spirit veins in his body let out excited sounds. Even Lung Shiqi himself felt very comfortable. Unknowingly, more than half of his spirit veins had recovered. If one were to look closely, they would discover that the originally sparkling spirit veins had turned a light red color. Moreover, all the repaired spirit veins, flesh and bones, whether in terms of toughness or hardness, had significantly increased. Refining the crimson gold earth dragon flame had actually helped him increase the strength of his body. This was a small surprise. As a result, he only needed 2 or 3 days to completely stabilize his injuries. Although he could not recover to his peak state, it was enough for him to fight normally. At this moment, Lung Shiqi suddenly realized. No wonder Nine Leaf said 3 days at most. She had already seen through it. In addition, he also found the fire seed of the crimson gold earth dragon flame in the spirit sea. Now, the fire seed had turned into a mini dragon and was flying freely in the spirit sea. However, it looked slightly dispirited. The refining this time had also caused some damage to the crimson gold earth dragon flame. However, at this moment, Lung Shiqi thought of another problem. That was, although he had refined the crimson gold earth dragon flame, he did not have many fire attribute spiritual techniques that he could use. He had a few high-grade spiritual techniques of various attributes. For the metal attribute, he had the spiritual techniques derived from the golden mystic yang method. For the wood attribute, he had the limitless deadwood incantation. For the water attribute, he had the continuous blue wave spear. For the earth attribute, he had the throbbing pulse of the earth. For the ice attribute, he had the crimson ice crystal technique. For the wind attribute, he had the Nirvana Remnant Wind Scroll. For the thunder attribute, he had the purple lightning thunder sound record. For the yang attribute, he had the great radiant fist. For the yin attribute, he had even more. He even had the 5 gods flowing light technique and the rare 10,000 gu spirit devouring technique. It could be said that he had all kinds of cultivation techniques and spiritual techniques. The only thing he lacked was a powerful fire attribute cultivation technique. Therefore, Lung Shiqi planned to get some fire attribute spiritual techniques on the way to or from the imperial capital. After all, he still had a large amount of high-grade resources in his mustard seed bracelet. He had to convert these things into what he needed the most. Right now, the only fire attribute spiritual technique he had was the fire symbol technique. He stretched out a finger and moved it in the air. Hula. As his finger moved, a stream of fire suddenly ignited. He wrote the word fire in front of him. Immediately after, the fire seed in his spirit sea trembled slightly. The flames of the word fire instantly turned into a crimson gold color. A terrifying wave of fire suddenly attacked. There was even a faint dragon roar in his ears. Lung Shiqi pushed lightly. The word fire whizzed out and directly smashed the door to the room. Not good. Leng Shiqi's expression changed. However, he had already used his spiritual technique and could not take it back. The word fire flew straight out. The terrifying flames burned everything in its path. In the blink of an eye, Leng Shiqi's vision opened up. All that was left was a scorched land that was several zhang wide and 100 zhang long. It was still emitting black smoke. Gulp. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but swallow his saliva. What he used was clearly a rank 3 spiritual technique, the fire symbol technique. Moreover, he didn't use all of his spiritual energy. Even if he used the fire symbol technique with his cultivation at the 6th layer of the spirit aperture realm, he would be able to display the power of a rank 4 spiritual technique. However, the hell-like scene in front of him made him a bit stupefied. He took a few steps forward. He could still feel the scorching aura in the air. Even with his body's strength and resistance to fire, he still found it difficult to breathe. It could be imagined how terrifying the flames were. This was the power of the crimson gold earth dragon flame. This was the power of a heaven and earth variant. Leng Shiqi also made up his mind, no, I have to get a high-level fire attribute spiritual technique at all costs. It has to be at least rank 5. No rank 6. If he had a rank 6 fire attribute spiritual technique, combined with the crimson gold earth dragon flame, it would definitely become a great killing weapon in his hands. It would be equivalent to having another powerful trump card in his hands. However, just as he was secretly pleasantly surprised, a petite figure walked over. That person wasn't Zhou Li but Sulwan. Although Leng Shiqi couldn't see Sulwan's expression, he could clearly feel her anger. Leng 10-7. Do you want to destroy Wuxiang Palace? Chapter 5-10. 3 days later in the Bloodkill Hall. After learning that Leng Shiqi was going to the imperial capital, the Ink Frost Ghost Man gave him a few instructions. Leng Shiqi, the imperial capital is the center of the Thunderflame dynasty's power. Don't act rashly there. Think twice before you act. Remember, you are carrying the future of the Blood Garment Pavilion on your shoulders. Leng Shiqi nodded. As for how much he understood, it was unknown. The Ink Frost Ghostman's tone changed once more. But you don't need to worry too much. Our pavilion has already arranged for 3 blood-robed assassins to help you. 3 blood-robed assassins? Leng Shiqi frowned. The difference between blood-robed assassins was enormous. The Spirit Vein Realm black-striped blood-robed assassins and the 9 Netherworld blood-robed assassins were both blood-robed assassins, but the difference between them was like heaven and earth. He just didn't know what cultivation base the Ink Frost Ghost Man was talking about. Leng Shiqi couldn't ask this question directly, so he beat around the bush. Vice Pavilion Master, may I know who those people are? A meaningful smile flashed through the Ink Frost Phantom's eyes. He said, the 3 of them were personally selected by our pavilion. Their strength and abilities are all exceptional. Moreover, the 3 of them are more or less related to you. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi also felt a little confused. He had only been in the Blood Garment Pavilion for a short time, and the number of people he had some sort of relationship with could be counted on 2 hands. However, he couldn't think of anyone suitable to go with him to the imperial capital. For example, Meng Ming and Yushu were definitely going to start their own Bloodseed project. They naturally wouldn't be able to help him. As for Bing Shang, who had helped him refine the Scarlet Gold Earth Dragon Flame, although he had great potential, his cultivation base was still too low. He definitely wouldn't be suitable. Other than those people, who else had some sort of relationship with him? Leng Shiqi couldn't think of anyone for a moment. The Ink Frost Ghost Man continued, but you also know that the Bloodseed project is extremely secretive, so those 3 can't directly go with you to the imperial capital. Don't worry, I've already arranged everything. They've already entered the imperial capital through various methods, and they'll contact you when the time is right. There's a secret code that only the 4 of you can understand. You must remember it well. The Ink Frost apparition released a stream of ghostly chi, and a stream of information suddenly appeared in Leng Shiqi's mind. He also knew the importance of the Bloodseed plan, and he said solemnly, Disciple understands. Also, pass this mustard seed bag to Delta Origi. The Ink Frost Phantom tossed over a gray-white mustard seed bag. Bone Demon is very happy to know that the Delta Origi has also entered the Discipline Commission's headquarters. This is a reward for that girl. Leng Shiqi nodded gently and said, Disciple will definitely do so. However, Disciple still has a question that I would like Vice Pavilion Master to answer. Go ahead. I haven't seen Master since I came back this time. I wonder where he is? Leng Shiqi asked. As one of the 9 Netherworld Blood Cloak assassins of the Blood Cloak Pavilion, Wuxiang had been running around all year round. It was normal that he wasn't there when Leng Shiqi returned to the Blood Cloak Pavilion. However, he came back as the leader of the Elite Association, and even entered the Dark Thunder Guard's headquarters. Wuxiang must have received this news. According to Wuxiang's temperament, he would definitely come back to show off. However, more than 10 days had passed and Leng Shiqi was about to leave, but Wuxiang still hadn't shown up. This made him a little confused. Leng Shiqi wasn't worried about Wuxiang's safety. He firmly believed that in this world, no one could touch him unless it was a powerhouse of the Sky Origin stage who personally made a move. What he cared about was that Wuxiang should at least give him some kind of reward when he came back. Originally, Leng Shiqi didn't think of this, but when he saw that Bone Demon had prepared a reward for Delta Origi, he felt a little uncomfortable. He didn't ask for any precious treasures, even a few fire attribute spirit techniques would be good enough. The Ink Frost ghostly man fell silent, as if he was hesitating about something. After a few breaths he said, Wuxiang is preparing to do something very important and crazy. He can't afford to be disturbed, so we didn't inform him of your whereabouts. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's heart clenched. Although Wuxiang was a little unreliable, he was still good to him. At the very least, he still had some feelings of master and disciple to Wuxiang. Now that the Ink Frost Ghost Man, a powerhouse of the Sky Origin stage, said that Wuxiang was doing something crazy, it must be something very dangerous. You don't have to worry, we spirit cultivators go against the heavens. If we don't go through the tribulations, how can we fight against the heavens? The Ink Frost Ghost Man's tone became unusually firm. You have such a cultivation at such a young age. You were able to refine the pure gold earth dragon flame, didn't you use your life in exchange for it? If your master can get through this, the Blood Seed plan will have a higher chance of success. Leng Shiqi agreed with the Ink Frost Ghost Man's words, but when he heard the last sentence, his mind suddenly shook. He seemed to have guessed what Wuxiang was doing. Wuxiang was originally at the peak of the unity of heaven and man realm, and now he was preparing to break through to the Sky Origin stage. No wonder he didn't return. To Wuxiang there was nothing more important than breaking through. But Leng Shiqi was still a little worried. Although he was far from reaching that level, but thinking about how the Gu God sect leader Sang Hetong had done something that angered the heavens just to break through to the Sky Origin stage, one could imagine how difficult it would be. The Sky Origin stage was the highest stage that Leng Shiqi knew of. A Sky Origin stage martial artist was enough to support a top-tier martial school. There were very few Sky Origin stage martial artists. Of course, Leng Shiqi hoped that Wuxiang could break through successfully. Right, speaking of Wuxiang as your master, he should reward you. The Ink Frost Ghost Man took out a mustard seed pouch. Since he's not here, the reward can't be lacking. We don't know what he will give you, so we can only give you some spirit stones. Leng Shiqi didn't refuse. He took the mustard seed pouch and looked inside. Whoa, a total of 2,000 spirit stones were neatly arranged inside. And these spirit stones were all mid-grade spirit stones. A mid-grade spirit stone was equivalent to over 100 normal spirit stones, which meant that Leng Shiqi suddenly had a huge sum of 200,000 spirit stones. Previously he had squeezed Zhuge Puha, Wu Diao and the others dry, but he had only obtained 60 to 70,000 spirit stones. It was clear that the Ink Frost Ghost Man was really generous. Just as he was about to thank him, the Ink Frost Ghost Man waved his hand and said, "Enough nonsense. Quickly establish a firm foothold in the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters. This disciple will do his best. Go." After leaving the Bloodkill Hall, Leng Shiqi didn't rush to the imperial capital. Instead, he made a detour to the Bloodcloak Hall. He didn't come here to accept a mission, but to gather information. The information he wanted was about the Southern Divine Peak's worldly manifestation. It wasn't easy for him to come to the Mukin County, so he naturally wanted to go to the Southern Divine Peak to find Ozu and ask for the follow-up to the Thousand Transformations illusory world art. Unfortunately, according to the information, the Southern Divine Peak's worldly manifestation had appeared more than half a month ago. This meant that it would take at least 2 months for the next worldly manifestation to appear. Leng Shiqi didn't have that much time, so he could only put this matter on hold for now. However, he had gained a lot from this trip. Not only did he fuse with the wild demonic blood beast body, but he also refined the crimson gold earth dragon flame. It could be said that his strength had skyrocketed, so he should be satisfied. In the end, he bid farewell to Meng Ming and Bing Shang. He also paid a visit to the previous Grand Pavilion Master of the Donglin County branch, Ghost Art. Then he set off for the imperial capital with 9 leave. Chapter 511. The imperial capital was located at the center of the Thunderblaze dynasty. The Thunderblaze dynasty had a total of 36 prefectures scattered in all directions, and the imperial capital was equivalent to the 37th prefecture. Because the imperial capital was too big, it was as big as half of the prefectures. In all 8 directions of the imperial capital, there was a military city that protected the imperial capital tightly. The imperial capital was also divided into 3 parts. The outermost part was called the outer city, and most of the people living here were ordinary people. It was not accurate to call them ordinary people. Although these people were not spirit cultivators, they were all rich and noble. It could be said that if you could settle down in the imperial capital, it would be the glory of several lifetimes. The outer city was extremely large, and with the speed of an ordinary person, it would take them a few months to walk around the imperial capital once. Further in was the inner city. This inner city was similar to the demon-suppressing city in the demonic Miasma mountain range, and only spirit cultivators had the qualifications to enter. Every street here was a spirit cultivator street, and there were spirit cultivator shops everywhere. Most of them were opened by various sections. Of course, the sects that could open shops in the inner city were all under the command of the Thunderblaze dynasty. For example, no matter how strong the Mountain Sea sect was, it was impossible for them to open a spirit cultivator shop in the imperial capital. The inner city could be considered the place with the most spirit cultivators in the Thunderblaze dynasty. As far as the eye could see, there were experts of the 4 realms of heaven and earth everywhere. Especially spirit cultivators of the Spirit Pulse realm, they had almost become a common cultivator. It was also because of this that the imperial capital was afraid that some high-level spirit cultivators would cause trouble in the inner city, so they spent a huge price to set up a formation in the inner city. Furthermore, there were always patrols patrolling the area. Even the weakest soldiers were at the Spirit Pulse realm, and even the captain was at the Spirit Aperture realm. Occasionally, you would even see experts of the unity of heaven and man realm patrolling. As a result, there were not many who dared to cause trouble in the inner city. Other than the outer city and inner city, the imperial capital was at the center of the imperial capital. The imperial capital was the true core of the Thunderblaze dynasty, and it was impossible for outsiders to take a step into the imperial capital. Even people like Eunuch Gao and Lei Mayan had to go through a complicated inspection when they entered the imperial capital. No one could be careless. Therefore, only a few people knew about the situation inside the imperial capital. Outsiders could spend their entire lives without being able to see the slightest bit of information. On this day, Leng Shiqi and 9 leave came to the imperial capital together. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but sigh as he gazed at the imperial capital's towering city walls that stretched as far as the eye could see. The city walls were at least 30 meters thick and were covered with countless spirit arrays and restrictions. It was as if the imperial capital had been turned into a military fortress. As expected of the imperial capital. Just these walls alone are 100 times stronger than demon-subduing city. Purple light flickered in 9 leaves' eyes. Clearly he had seen some clues. Leng Shiqi also secretly glanced at 9 leave with supercilious eyes, but he couldn't see anything. He was a little envious of 9 leaves' eyes. They were even stronger than supercilious eyes. The inspection in the imperial city was very strict. Everyone who entered or left the city was strictly screened. Fortunately, Leng Shiqi had Eunuch Gao's token, so the 2 of them entered the outer city without a hitch. Upon entering the city, Leng Shiqi couldn't help but sigh. Is this really a city? He didn't see anything else. All he saw was a large continent that was a few hundred meters wide. It went straight out of his field of vision and seemed to have no end. Leng Shiqi had already opened his eye aperture. His vision was extraordinary. He could easily see things 10 kilometers away. It was obvious how long this road was. He quickly opened the system map and found that this road led directly to the inner city. The distance between the two was at least 100 to 200 kilometers. Was this really a city? Leng Shiqi originally thought that he had seen a lot, but now it seemed that his vision was still a little narrow. Not only him but even 9 leave, a 7th-rank Great Yao, showed a surprised expression. Anyone who saw their expressions smiled knowingly. They knew that it must be their first time in the imperial capital. After that, the 2 of them didn't stay in the outer city for long. Because the Dark Thunder Guards and the Discipline Commission headquarters were in the inner city, they directly rushed to the inner city. With their speed they could arrive very quickly. However, they were in the city after all. There were many inconveniences. The 2 of them walked for more than 2 days before entering the inner city. After entering the inner city, the biggest difference for Leng Shiqi was the spiritual energy. The spiritual energy here was very abundant. It was not inferior to the treasured land of a second-rate sect. Furthermore, everywhere he looked, there were spirit cultivators and colorful small formations. This was simply a holy land for spirit cultivator. Nine Leaves' eyes instantly looked left and right. She impatiently said, "Go to your Dark Thunder Guards. I'll go play by myself." Before she could finish speaking, she had already run off. Leng Shiqi rubbed the space between his brows. Hopefully Nine Leaf wouldn't cause any trouble. There were too many people in the Imperial City who could deal with her. She shouldn't play around and lose her life. Leng Shiqi couldn't control Nine Leaf anyway, so he was too lazy to worry. He looked at the spirit cultivator shops everywhere and smiled. He turned and walked into a shop that sold cultivation methods and spirit skills. Not only did he lack fire cultivation methods, he also lacked all kinds of 5th-level cultivation methods. With all his current cultivation methods, he could open about 270 spirit cavities. This sounded like a lot, but it was still far from opening all 360 spirit cavities in his body. Only cultivation methods of the 5th step or higher had a method to open spiritual cavities. What was even more troublesome was that the remaining spirit cavities were relatively unpopular. Ordinary 5th-level cultivation methods couldn't do it. This was similar to the problem he faced when he was in the late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. What he needed the most were the more unpopular cultivation methods. Not long after, Leng Shiqi resentfully came out. There were indeed 5th-level cultivation methods in this shop. The prices were all in the tens of thousands of spirit stones, but the key was that they weren't selling them. Or rather, they weren't selling them to him. At the beginning, after Leng Shiqi spoke of his intentions, he was led to a private room. However, when the other party asked about Leng Shiqi's identity, he subconsciously wanted to hide his identity and said that he was a rogue cultivator. However, who would have thought that the other party would be so angry and immediately start to act perfunctorily? In the end, they used all kinds of reasons to invite Leng Shiqi out. This wasn't because they were snobbish. After all, there were many low-key big shots in the imperial capital. The people in the shop never dared to offend any customer. The reason why they did this was because 5th-level cultivation methods were too rare. These people didn't earn spirit stones by selling 5th-level cultivation methods, but through connections and favors. None of the people who could buy 5th-level cultivation methods lacked spirit stones. Since they could take out spirit stones, why not sell them to those with noble status? Therefore, all these high-level rare resources were always specially prepared for high officials and nobles. After understanding this point, Leng Shiqi decided to first go to the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters to get a proper identity. Chapter 512. Leng Shiqi turned in the inner city. Suddenly he stopped in his tracks. The street in front of him was very different. The other streets were bustling with people, but here he could see the entire street at a glance. Not to mention shops, there wasn't even a living person on this street. There was no other reason other than the fact that there was a mansion that everyone was afraid of located here. That was the Dark Thunder Guard. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seems that no matter where the Dark Thunder Guard is, they are not that popular. He walked to the front of the Dark Thunder Guard's gate and found that it was not as luxurious as he had imagined. On the contrary, it looked like an ordinary family's mansion. Even the big flat on the door was very simple and overall, it did not look intimidating at all. In front of the door stood two spirit cultivators dressed in the Dark Thunder Guard's clothes. Leng Shiqi looked at them and found that they were both at the late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm. The late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm was just guarding the door. Leng Shiqi did not want to waste time. After taking out Eunuch Gao's token, he was brought in by one of them. Entering the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Hall, it could be considered a different world. Not only was the area large, but the design was also unique, completely using all the available space. Looking around, the figures of the Dark Thunder Guard could be seen everywhere, but it didn't seem crowded or messy at all. Leng Shiqi also noticed that the clothes of these Dark Thunder Guards were not the same. They were roughly divided into two categories, one was black and the other was purple. Moreover, he found that the cultivation of the people who were purple was relatively higher. The Dark Thunder Guard beside him saw Leng Shiqi looking around and said cleverly, "Sir, you must be new to the headquarters. Do you need this subordinate to introduce you to the structure of the headquarters?" The person who could be led in by Eunuch Gao definitely had an extraordinary identity. In the future he might be one of his superiors. It was not bad to take this opportunity to establish a relationship. Lung Shiqi naturally saw through the man's thoughts, but he still chuckled and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you." That person immediately said, "It's my duty. Sir, you see, these black-clothed hidden thunder guards should be called hidden thunder guards. The Yin thunder guards were responsible for investigating and collecting intelligence. Every one of them was an expert. As long as they wanted to investigate, there was almost nothing they couldn't find. And those in black and purple are the war thunder guards, who are mainly responsible for carrying out arrest and elimination tasks. They are extremely powerful and rarely have opponents in the same rank." Hearing this, Lung Shiqi understood that the Yin thunder guards were intelligence personnel, and the Zhan thunder guards were combat personnel. No wonder those people with black clothes and purple stripes had higher cultivation. At this moment, a hidden thunder guard walked past them. This hidden thunder guard had a cloak on his back. That person continued, "The one who just walked past is the hidden thunder guard's envoy inspector. You have to be at least at the spirit aperture realm to take up this position. There are also inspectors on the war thunder guard side, but the cultivation requirements are higher. They must be at the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. Of course, this is only a theoretical standard. In fact, the hidden thunder guard's envoy inspector was generally qualified to be a master of the gang spirit realm. The hidden thunder guard was a real power figure. He could command a whole guard and hold a lot of power in his hands. In other provinces and counties, even the great hidden thunder guard had to be polite to him. I see that you have an extraordinary temperament. I think you can take up the position of hidden thunder guard." Lung Shiqi secretly estimated that with his current strength, it was not a problem for him to serve as the hidden thunder guard. He asked, "What's above the hidden thunder guard?" "Air." The man froze for a moment and then quickly said, "Above that is the eunuch envoy. The weakest one is at the late stage of the gang spirit realm. People at this level have a certain right to speak even in the imperial capital. Even the hidden thunder guard of the unity of heaven and men realm has to be afraid of him." Eunuch envoy? Lung Shiqi suddenly thought of the eunuch Gao's token of eunuch Gao. At that time eunuch Gao also said something similar. Did eunuch Gao want him to serve as the eunuch envoy directly? It was good to be in a high position, but he could foresee that there would be countless troubles waiting for him. This position was not easy to sit in. Above the hidden thunder guard is the deputy general manager. There are only 36 deputy general managers in total, corresponding to 36 provinces and counties. They have great power and directly belong to the 4 general managers. Generally speaking, the 4 general managers have a lot of things to deal with. Many things are handled by the deputy general managers, so you can't offend them. As for the 4 general managers and the great commander, I dare not say more." The man was cautious in his words and actions. He dared not say more about the 4 general managers and the great commander. Lung Shiqi didn't care. He had a general understanding of the structure of the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard. Soon they came to a courtyard with the words "Cold Nether Pavilion" written on the door. He knew that this must be the place where eunuch Gao was. The man cupped his hands and said, "Sir, this is as far as I can go. By the way, what's your name?" Lung Shiqi nodded slightly and asked. The man's expression changed. Since he was asked for his name, it meant that he had shown his value. He quickly said, "I'm Lin Min." "Lin Min, right? Sorry to trouble you," Lung Shiqi said politely. "I dare not. It's my honor to be able to lead the way for you, sir." Lin Min immediately bowed. Lung Shiqi's eyes flashed. He thought to himself that even a gatekeeper in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard had to be so cautious in his words and actions. If he wanted to gain a foothold here, he had to tread on thin ice and be careful everywhere. However, if he really did it step by step, he didn't know when he would be able to rise to the top. Therefore, this path wasn't suitable for him. After sending Lin Min away, Lung Shiqi finally met eunuch Gao after a few twists and turns with the token. At this time, there was another person standing beside eunuch Gao. This person had a pale face and no beard. He looked like a teenager. His eyes were sharp and his clothes were similar to eunuch Gao's. He should be the same kind of person as eunuch Gao. "You go back first. I will consider this matter," eunuch Gao said expressionlessly. The teenager saluted and left. From beginning to end, he didn't look at Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi then cupped his fist and said, "Disciple greets master." Although he was now in the Dark Thunder Guard, in fact he should be called by his position. However, Lung Shiqi didn't have any identity now, so he called him by the identity of master and disciple. Eunuch Gao's eyelids moved slightly and he said straightforwardly, "There are 2 major systems in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard, namely the Hidden Thunder Guard and the War Thunder Guard. You should know which system you want to enter? Lung Shiqi didn't hesitate and said, Disciple wants to become a War Thunder Guard. Compared with the Hidden Thunder Guard, the War Thunder Guard was more suitable for his style. The War Thunder Guard looked more dangerous, but relatively, there were more opportunities to make contributions. Eunuch Gao gave a look as if he had expected it. Lung Shiqi asked at this time, Master, since I have entered the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guard, what will happen to my identity as the great supervisor in the Western Wilderness Prefecture? This was also what he had always cared about. The Western Wilderness Prefecture was his team that he had fought hard for, and he had also placed many people from the blood-clothed pavilion. It would be a pity to give it up like this. Moreover, he had also arranged a backup plan in Jianghu State. Without the right of the Western Wilderness Prefecture, his future plans would be difficult. Eunuch Gao smiled and said, Your ambition is not small. You can have the identity of the Western Wilderness Prefecture, but you can only start from the position of the supervisor. If you abandon the great supervisor, you can directly become the supervisor. You make your own choice. Chapter 513. In some sense there was still fairness in this world. If you wanted to be an imperial supervisor, you had to give up your foundation in Western Wilderness Prefecture. If you didn't want to give it up, you could only choose the inferior position of supervisor. According to Lin Min, the standard for an imperial supervisor was the late stage of Gang Spirit Realm. With his current strength, he could barely fight with someone in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm. As for those in the late stage, he couldn't afford to offend them. Therefore, he couldn't be an imperial supervisor for the time being. I choose supervisor. This is the imperial supervisor token. Master, please take it back. He held out the imperial supervisor token with both hands. Eunuch Gao's eyes flashed with appreciation. You're an ambitious man. I've seen a lot of people like you, but it's rare to see someone who can control his ambition. Besides, we never take back what we've given out. The imperial supervisor token is with you. When the time is right, you can take up the post yourself. Lung Shiqi thought to himself that Eunuch Gao's question was actually a test of his temperament. Thank you, Master. He quickly put away the Imperial Supervisor token. As long as he had the Imperial Supervisor token, he could be promoted to an Imperial Supervisor at any time, which meant that Eunuch Gao had paved the way for him in advance. There were many masters in the late stage of Gang Spirit Realm in the headquarters of Dark Thunder Guards, but the number of eunuchs was limited. Therefore, it was not enough to be promoted to eunuchs only if one had the ability, qualifications, and connections. Lung Shiqi had to sigh again. In fact, there was no fairness in the world. Come here. Eunuch Gao called, and a man walked quickly to him. Lung Shiqi glanced at him and found it was an acquaintance, Wu Diao. They hadn't seen each other for a while. Wu Diao had a mustache on his lips, which made him look older and more confident than before. After the elite meeting, Wu Diao came to the imperial capital with Eunuch Gao. It seemed that he had been doing well with Eunuch Gao. Eunuch Gao said briefly, Take him to the post. Wu Diao bowed and said, Yes, Master. After coming out of Eunuch Gao, Wu Diao immediately changed his expression. He pulled Lung Shiqi to him and said with a shifty look, Brother Xingji, why are you so late? You're also an envoy inspector, right? Do you know how much profit an envoy inspector can make? Lung Shiqi secretly smiled. No wonder Wu Diao's face was ruddy. It turned out that he had gained a lot of benefits. Lung Shiqi cupped his hands and said, I have many trivial matters to attend to. I have no choice but to do so. I will need Brother Wu's help in the future. Haha, you flatter me. Wu Diao's smile deepened. Brother Xingji is the leader of the elite association. His future achievements are immeasurable. Moreover, this matter hasn't been publicized yet. Otherwise, Brother Xingji would definitely be the center of attention. Let's go, I'll take you through the procedures first. Along the way, Wu Diao enthusiastically introduced Lung Shiqi to the situation in Dark Thunder Manor. He familiarly led Lung Shiqi through the process. Soon, he received the inspector's token and clothes as well as the necessary resources. Then they turned left and right and came to a courtyard with 29 written on the door. Wu Diao sighed and said, Brother Xingji, this courtyard is the War Thunder Guard's 29 guards. Now, only here is a vacancy for an envoy inspector. It must be said that your luck is not very good this time. The 29 guards suffered heavy losses in the mission not long ago. Of the original dozen people, only 5 returned. Dark Thunder Manor has always been short of manpower. I'm afraid there will be no manpower for you recently. But Brother Xingji, you don't have to worry. If you need, you can come to the 12 guards at any time to find me. I will definitely be at your beck and call. The 29 guards that suffered heavy losses fell into the hands of Leng Shiqi. He was definitely not happy. And it seemed that the mission carried out by the War Thunder Guard was also very dangerous. There were not many people available in his hands. He couldn't be asked to fight alone, right? It was not impossible to ask Wu Diao for help, but then he would owe him a favor again. Brother Wu is generous. If I really encounter difficulties, I won't be polite. Leng Shiqi still responded. Wu Diao laughed and said, "Ha, Brother Xingji, you don't have to be polite. You go in and rest first. I'll come back in the evening to welcome Brother Xingji." Then it's better to be polite. Okay, I'll come find you then. I'll take my leave first. After saying goodbye to Wu Diao, Leng Shiqi stepped into the 29 guards' courtyard. The courtyard was not small. There were dozens of houses neatly arranged and a martial arts practice field. At this time, there were 5 figures sitting in the martial arts practice field. Looking from afar, it was a bit bleak. Leng Shiqi did not hide his footsteps as he walked over. As soon as he got close, the smell of wine floated into his nose. The 5 people also quickly noticed the footsteps behind them, but only 2 of them turned their heads. One of them had a pale face and an ordinary appearance. He looked to be in his 30s or 40s. The other person was strong and had a fierce expression. A pair of bell-sized eyes looked a bit scary. When they saw Leng Shiqi wearing a purple cloak, they guessed his identity. The 2 of them bowed at the same time. Subordinate He Fei Chen greets Envoy Inspector. Subordinate Lu Zhao greets Envoy Inspector. He Fei Chen was the pale-faced man and Lu Zhao was the strong man. Both of them were at the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. No need to be so polite. I am Lu Xingji, the newly appointed Envoy Inspector of the 29 guards. What is the situation here? Leng Shiqi's expression was cold and his tone was cold. Although Wu Diao said that the 29 guards suffered a heavy blow and lacked manpower. But other than the original dozen or so Battle Thunder guards, there should be some intelligence personnel and servants. No matter what, it shouldn't be so bleak, right? He Fei Chen and Lu Zhao did not answer. Instead, they glanced at the 3 people who still had their backs to them, especially the one with white hair. These 3 clearly knew that the new Envoy Inspector was coming, but they still turned a blind eye. This was already a crime of disrespect. But the white-haired man still did not turn around. Instead, he said with an old and sad voice, "The 29 guards are about to scatter. If Lord Lu wants to show off his power, wait until after the reorganization." Gudu. The 2 people next to the old man picked up the wine jug and drank by themselves. They were too lazy to even say a word. Leng Shiqi frowned. If he only had 2 normal people under him, then what was the difference between him and a general without an army? Looking at the 3 people with their backs to him, his eyes flashed with hostility. Immediately, Leng Shiqi reached out with one hand. Spirit chi surged and hundreds of cold underworld silk intertwined with each other and attacked the hearts of the 3 people. Leng Shiqi's sudden attack shocked everyone. He Fei Chen and Lu Zhao quickly dodged and exclaimed at the same time, "Spirit Aperture Realm 6th Layer? Cold Underworld Scripture." Chapter 514. Leng Shiqi revealed his cultivation as soon as he made a move. When Lu Zhao saw that he was only at the 6th layer of the Spirit Aperture Realm, his expression became complicated. He Fei Chen recognized that Leng Shiqi was using the Cold Underworld Treasure Technique. The Cold Underworld Treasure Technique was created by eunuch Gao and was only passed down to his adopted sons. From this, it could be seen that Leng Shiqi's identity was not ordinary. The 3 people who were attacked by Leng Shiqi were also shocked, but their reactions were not slow. The 2 people who were drinking turned around and broke the wine jug. However, the wine did not spill out, but rather formed ripples that shattered a lot of the cold underworld silk. Leng Shiqi also saw that the 2 people's clothes were messy and sloppy, but they looked very similar, like a pair of twins. The old man formed a seal and a fierce flaming tiger appeared, tearing apart the remaining cold underworld silk. Leng Shiqi did not use his full power with the cold underworld thousand silk hands. He only wanted to test them. The twins were both at the 6th layer of the Spirit Aperture Realm, and the old man was not simple, he was actually at the peak of the Spirit Aperture Realm. And he was also a spirit mage at the peak of the Spirit Aperture Realm. He also found that these people were not weak, but a small team with such battle strength had lost half of its members. What kind of terrifying mission did they go on? The old man also discovered Leng Shiqi's cultivation. He did not hesitate to mock him, Since when can someone at the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm be an envoy inspector? It seems like the 29th guard is really going to decline. Old Huang, he cultivates the cold underworld treasured technique. He Fei Chen whispered to him. However, the mockery in Elder Huang's eyes became even stronger. So it's because of connections. People like you don't stay in the palace but insist on joining the Dark Thunder Guard. One look and I can tell that you are an ambitious person. He Fei Chen kept trying to signal Elder Huang with his eyes, but Elder Huang completely ignored him. Actually, Old Huang knew that he had offended the new envoy inspector, but he did not care because his heart was already dead. He just wanted to retire and end his life. Naturally, he had nothing to worry about. The twins looked at each other, cupped their hands at Leng Shiqi and continued to drink. Lu Zhao also looked at Leng Shiqi with disdain. Obviously, he looked down on Leng Shiqi. This. He Fei Chen looked left and right. How could he make the new inspector step down in this situation? He was still young and talented. He didn't want to ruin his future. Just as he was about to smooth things over, Leng Shiqi said something that shocked everyone. A bunch of trash. His tone was very calm, as if he was narrating a very ordinary matter, but it was this tone that immediately made the few people's hearts burn with rage. The twin brothers coldly glared at him, Lu Zhao's expression was ferocious, He Fei Chen's expression sank, and even Elder Huang let out a disdainful sound. What? Did I say something wrong? Leng Shiqi raised his eyebrows. What qualifications do a few pieces of trash who only know how to complain about themselves have to stay in the Dark Thunder Guards? I never raised trash. Today I will clean up the sect and reorganize the 29 guards. Before he finished speaking, his hands quickly formed seals. Waves of crimson cold air surged out. The cold air rose into the air and surrounded the surroundings, freezing the space. In the blink of an eye, the martial arts practice field turned into a crimson world of ice. This move immediately caused a few people to be shocked. This new envoy inspector was also a spirit caster? But so what if he was a spirit caster in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm? It wasn't like they hadn't killed one before. What surprised them the most was the difference in Leng Shiqi's body. Killing intent. He was being serious. Leng Shiqi's hand gripped the air and a 5th-level spirit spear appeared in his hand. As his spirit energy revolved, golden scales appeared on the spear's body and traces of sharp metal energy seeped out. Soon after, the tip of the spear flicked. Everyone seemed to hear the sound of surging waves. The golden spear was like a tsunami as it pierced towards Elder Huang. This spear was a fusion of the continuous blue wave spear and the golden scale cross spear that Wu Diao had given him. It was the golden wave spear. Metal begets water. Leng Shiqi used a metal elemental technique to activate this technique. Its power was even stronger than normal 6th-level techniques. Facing this spear, Elder Huang was moved. In his eyes, what he saw was not just a spear, but an endless wave of spear. A crimson crystal shone on Elder Huang's forehead. A small formation appeared under his feet. Waves of flames rushed towards him, attempting to drown out the spear. However, he still underestimated Leng Shiqi's strength. The golden wave spear itself was extremely aggressive. In addition to Leng Shiqi's terrifying strength and powerful body, he ignored the sea of flames and went straight for Elder Huang's head. This time, Elder Huang truly felt the threat of death. He had experienced this feeling not long ago, but he never thought that he would experience it again so soon. 9 Palace Fire Formation. Elder Huang's spiritual power was pushed to the limit. His white hair fluttered wildly. 9 huge pillars of fire suddenly rose from his body. The pillars of fire melted a lot of the crimson ice crystals as soon as they appeared. Under Elder Huang's control, the pillars of fire kept changing their paths in a strange manner, forming a formation. Leng Shiqi was deep in the 9 Palace Fire Formation. He was not afraid. With a shake of his spear, spear shadows swept in all directions. Like a golden wave, they instantly shattered 4 pillars of fire. Elder Huang was shocked. This was the first time that his 9 Palace Fire Formation had been broken by someone so powerful. However, at this moment the others finally made their move. One of the twins used a saber while the other used a sword. The saber user suddenly swung his saber towards the ground. Strangely, a huge saber light broke out from the ground under Leng Shiqi's feet. The swordsman's sword moved the void. When he looked up, he saw that a sword-shaped shadow of 100 feet long had fallen from the sky. Heaven and earth, saber and sword dual mastery. Lu Zhao was much more simple and violent. He threw out a punch. It was as if there was a ferocious roar coming from his body. As for He Fei Qin, after hesitating for 2 breaths, he still chose to make a move. In his opinion, Leng Shiqi might be testing them. Even if he guessed wrong, since the others had already made their move, it would be unreasonable for him to not make a move. Moreover, Leng Shiqi's attitude was truly infuriating. He Fei Qin flicked his finger. Streaks of cyan energy shot towards Leng Shiqi like a meteor shower. Facing the combined attacks of multiple mid- and late-stage Spirit Aperture Realm experts, Leng Shiqi's battle intent became even more intense. He used his palm as a saber. His entire body was filled with a shocking amount of demonic energy. A sinister and terrifying pitch-black saber light slashed down, easily cutting through the saber light on the ground. He used his finger as a sword. A ferocious blood-colored sword light tore through the sky, tearing apart the sword-shaped shadow. He hurriedly turned around. Several ancient runes lit up on his right arm. He didn't use any other spiritual techniques. He simply threw out a punch and sent Lu Zhao flying. Finally, he moved his 10 fingers. 10 blood-colored lightning bolts as thick as an arm shot out, destroying all of He Fei Qin's finger energy. The entire martial arts stage suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Chapter 5:15. The training field of the 29 guards was still covered by a layer of crimson ice crystals. Leng Shiqi looked at the other 5 coldly with his hands behind his back. The 5 people fell into a temporary state of absent-mindedness. From Leng Shiqi's sudden attack until now, everything had happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. In just a few blinks of an eye, their impression of Leng Shiqi had undergone a complete change. With a cultivation at the 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm, he easily suppressed all 5 of them. He even used spirit arts, spear arts, blade arts, sword arts, fist arts and finger arts, which were completely different. It must be known that a spirit cultivator's time was very precious, and their energy was even more limited. It was good enough for a spirit cultivator to master 1 or 2 techniques in his life. Who could master so many techniques at the same time? Was he even human? However, what frightened them the most was Leng Shiqi's attitude. That kind of indifference, as if everything was natural, as if he just casually attacked and didn't use his full strength at all. In fact, it was indeed so. If Leng Shiqi activated the wild evil demon blood beast body, used the demon arrival saber and blood shadow sword, these people would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. They looked at each other and saw the indescribable horror in each other's eyes. Was this person really at the 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm? Was he a Spirit Gang Realm Master in disguise? Leng Shiqi stood there and waited for a few breaths, but those people were still looking at each other. His killing intent rose in his heart, and a golden flame flashed in his palm. It was that trace of fire that instantly made Elder Huang, who cultivated a fire-type cultivation method, turn pale with fright. He immediately knelt on one knee and shouted, "Subordinate Huang Yunli greets Lord Inspector." He cultivated the fire attribute technique for decades and was very sensitive to flames. Just now, he suddenly felt a terrible flame that made his soul tremble. If Leng Shiqi really attacked, he would definitely die without a burial place. Although his heart was dead, it didn't mean that he really wanted to die. In the face of life, he chose to surrender. Previously, there was Leng Shiqi's military might. Now, even the respected Elder Huang had knelt down. The others also knelt down one after another and said in unison, "Your humble subordinates He Fei Qin, Lu Zhao, Lu Xia, and Lu Dong, pay respect to Lord Inspector." Leng Shiqi dispersed the crimson ice crystals, and sunlight once again bathed everyone, making them feel a little more at ease. "Get up, He Fei Qin, follow me." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the largest room in the courtyard. It seemed to be a meeting place. He Fei Qin calmed himself down and rejoiced inwardly. He signaled the others with his eyes and followed Leng Shiqi. When their figures disappeared from the room, Elder Huang looked dejected. He sighed deeply and said, "Sigh, the younger generation will surpass us in time. This person will definitely not be an ordinary person in the future, but this kind of person will often attract trouble. Anyway, this old man is going to leave the Dark Thunder Guards. You guys take care of yourselves." Lu Zhao was defeated by Leng Shiqi. He rubbed his shoulder and said, "Hey, he sent me flying with one punch. I like it." Lu Xia and Lu Dong turned around and left, leaving only one sentence, "Go back and take care of it." Obviously, these two also thought that it was worthwhile to follow Leng Shiqi. Elder Huang shook his head slightly and left alone. His back seemed more depressed. In the room, Leng Shiqi sat on a chair, and He Fei Qin stood with his hands behind his back. Tell me what's the matter with your mission? Leng Shiqi was also very curious about what mission they had carried out. Not only did so many people die but also their willpower was depressed. Was the blow really so big? He Fei-Chen smiled bitterly and replied, "It's a long story. More than a month ago the Dark Thunder Guards found that there was some unrest in Shantai Commandery. There appeared a force that was specially looking for trouble with the Imperial Court, called the Dark Thunder Alliance. According to the intelligence of the Dark Thunder Guards, there was only one master of Gang Spirit Realm, and the others were nothing to be afraid of. Originally the Dark Thunder Guards of Shantai Commandery could have solved it by themselves, but at that time Shantai Commandery was too busy to spare any manpower, so we 29 guards were sent to Shantai Commandery to wipe out this force. The former inspector was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, and with us, it should have been an easy task. But no one expected that after we negotiated with the Dark Thunder Guards of Shantai Commandery, they gave us false information, which led us to fall into a trap. They were well prepared and invited several masters of Gang Spirit Realm. Finally we suffered a heavy loss. The 5 of us risked our lives to escape, and I haven't recovered from my injury yet." After listening to He Fei-Chen's words, Leng Shiqi was a little surprised. "You mean the Dark Thunder Guards of Shantai Commandery betrayed us?" The Dark Thunder Guards were originally a force that supervised others, but there was a traitor among them. It would be a joke if it was spread out. Alas. He Fei-Chen's face was bitter. A senior inspector of Shantai Commandery was secretly bribed. After this, that person took a group of elites of the Dark Thunder Guards to join the Thunder Extermination Alliance. What annoys me is that this group of people know too much about Shantai Commandery and the style of the Dark Thunder Guards, so they haven't been found yet. The Thunder Extermination Alliance is arrogant, but they do have some ability. Leng Shiqi was secretly surprised and at the same time he somewhat understood Mr. Huang and the others. Being betrayed by one's own people and leading to the death of more than half of them was indeed a big blow. Of course he couldn't say this out loud, so he changed the topic. "What about the others of the 29 guards?" "Alas, we heard that the 29 guards were going to be reorganized, so Mr. Huang sent them away and wanted to have a few days of peace. Unexpectedly you came again, Your Excellency." He Fei-Chen was actually quite surprised. Leng Shiqi's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't know if this was intentional or accidental by Eunuch Gao. No matter what he had to do next was to make the 29 guards work normally. "In the future you will take care of the 29 guards. You will call back the original people first, and then apply for some War Thunder Guards to come in." His words caused He Fei-Chen's entire body to tremble. From now on he would be the second in command of the 29 guards. But He Fei-Chen still looked embarrassed. "Your Excellency may not know, but the War Thunder Guards have always been in short supply. In a short time I'm afraid." Before he spoke, Leng Shiqi directly threw a mustard seed bag. He subconsciously opened it and saw that it was densely packed with spirit stones and various resources. His saliva was about to flow out. "Money can make ghosts turn millstones. These resources are up to you. At least add a few more people." "Don't worry, Your Excellency, I can do it well at this time." After sending He Fei-Chen away, Leng Shiqi turned over some documents on the table and found that these were the daily duties of the War Thunder Guards. They also recorded the tasks and personnel changes that the 29 guards had completed, and the basic information of each War Thunder Guard. He also read it carefully. Until the evening Wu Diao came to find him. Chapter 516. At night, Leng Shiqi and Leng Shiqi toasted each other and became more familiar with each other. Leng Shiqi also learned some common knowledge about the imperial capital from Wu Diao so that he wouldn't accidentally touch on any taboos. However, Leng Shiqi didn't forget that he had cheated Wu Diao and almost lost his underwear. With Wu Diao's personality, how could he forget it completely? Now Wu Diao was so enthusiastic not only because Leng Shiqi had outstanding potential. After all, there were many geniuses with potential, but how many of them could survive until the end? He had probably heard something from Eunuch Gao's words. Leng Shiqi took advantage of the atmosphere to ask him about cultivation methods. "Brother Wu, I'm new here and not familiar with the imperial capital. May I ask where I can buy level 5 cultivation methods?" "Level 5 cultivation methods?" Surprise flashed through Wu Diao's eyes. With Leng Shiqi's strength, did he still need level 5 cultivation methods? Moreover, Wu Diao had personally seen Zhuge Puha give several level 5 cultivation methods to Leng Shiqi in order to fight for 4th place in the elite meeting. In addition, Leng Shiqi had cheated Mu Qinglin and the others of their resources, so he probably had a lot of level 5 cultivation methods on him. Then why did he need cultivation methods? However, Wu Diao didn't ask too much. He thought for a moment and said, actually, the larger spirit cultivation shops in the inner city all have level 5 cultivation methods. However, those people won't sell them easily. Leng Shiqi nodded inwardly. He had encountered this situation when he first came to the inner city. However, with Brother Xingji's current status, you can buy as much as you want. Maybe those shops won't take a single cent. Wu Diao's lips curled into a proud smile. What do you mean? The Dark Thunder Guard's inspector had such a high status? Wu Diao laughed sinisterly. Brother Xingji, have you forgotten what we Dark Thunder Guards do? What those businessmen are most afraid of isn't the patrol guards, but us Dark Thunder Guards. If they dare to provoke us, we can just find an excuse to search the area and ban them for a period of time. That will be enough to make them suffer. Looking at Wu Diao's smug look, Leng Shiqi knew that he had done something similar before. Leng Shiqi had already thought of several ways to make money from this route alone. This envoy inspector position was really not bad. Since that was the case, Leng Shiqi planned to visit a few shops later. He had nearly 300,000 spirit stones on him, so it was not a problem for him to buy a few cultivation methods. Perhaps he would be able to gather all the spiritual cavities he needed to open. However, at this moment Wu Diao said, Brother Xingji, I suggest that unless you have nowhere else to go, don't go to the shop to buy cultivation techniques. Why is that? Leng Shiqi was puzzled. Wu Diao drank a mouthful of wine. Brother Xingji, think about it. How good can a cultivation technique be if the shop is selling it? It's basically the most ordinary kind of cultivation technique. There's basically no research value in it. Originally, Wu Diao had thought that Leng Shiqi wanted to study those cultivation methods to comprehend them by analogy. Although Wu Diao's guess was wrong, he did remind Leng Shiqi. Seeing that Wu Diao had something to say, Leng Shiqi raised his wine cup and said with a smile, It seems that Brother Wu has a plan. Why don't you give me some advice? It's not really advice. Wu Diao waved his hand and said, Actually, there are 4 large shops in the inner city. Every 3 months they will take turns to hold an auction. This can be said to be the highest standard auction in the Thunderflame dynasty. Not to mention top quality rank 5 cultivation techniques, even rank 6 and 7 cultivation techniques will appear. The Celestial Treasure Firm's auction will be held in a few days. Brother Xingji, why don't you go and try your luck? Hearing the words auction, Leng Shiqi did not think about the cultivation techniques first. Instead, he was somewhat conflicted about the auction. The word auction often appeared in the literature of his previous world. Usually, as long as one participated in an auction, there would be strange treasures. Others would not be able to see it, only the main character would be able to. There would definitely be some conflict or conspiracy. Moreover, it would inexplicably involve the main character. In the end, all the benefits would fall into the hands of the main character. Leng Shiqi had seen a lot of this kind of melodramatic plot. He did not think that just because he had the system he was destined to be the one. This world was too big. There were many people who could obtain all kinds of miraculous opportunities. Therefore, when he heard about the auction, he felt like he was facing a scourge. Wu Diao saw that Leng Shiqi was in a daze and seemed to be hesitating. He shouted to wake Leng Shiqi up. I say, Brother Xingji, you're still hesitating? Do you know that you're in luck? A few days ago, I helped the Celestial Treasure Firm with something. I was able to get you an invitation. You have to know that the auction invitations can fetch a sky-high price. Moreover, those who can participate in the auction are either rich or respectable. They all have extraordinary statuses. Brother Xingji, you're new to the imperial capital. It's good for you to get to know them. He earnestly persuaded. Leng Shiqi thought about it and agreed. This was indeed a good opportunity. He was only going to see if there were any suitable 5th-level cultivation techniques. He did not care about anything else. There should not be any accidents. He nodded in agreement. Wu Diao immediately smiled. In this way, Leng Shiqi could be considered to have owed him a considerable favor. After the two drank to their heart's content, Leng Shiqi was not in a hurry to go back. Instead, he used his spiritual energy to force out all the alcohol and turned to walk to the various spirit cultivation shops. The auction was a good choice, but it did not mean that he would give up on the cultivation techniques in the shops. He directly put on his envoy inspector uniform and swaggered into a rather large shop. It was already late at night, but there were still many people inside. It was clear that business was booming. As soon as he entered, a sharp-eyed manservant immediately ran over and bowed. "Sir, what are your orders?" Before Leng Shiqi could speak, a person who looked like a manager quickly walked over. He waved his hand and said, "I will receive this esteemed guest. Go and prepare a private room." "Sir, my surname is Zhong. May I ask what your surname is?" "Oh, so it's Sir Lu. Sir, please follow me." Manager Zhong led Leng Shiqi into a private room. He was submissive the entire time. Leng Shiqi thought that these people were really afraid of the Dark Thunder Guards. It seemed that he might be able to gain something tonight. After the two sat down, Manager Zhong asked, "Sir Lu, what do you need? As long as the shop has something, it will be provided. The price will definitely be the lowest." Leng Shiqi only said 4 words, "5th level cultivation techniques." "Sir Lu, please wait a moment." As he spoke, he took out a palm-sized mirror and wrote a few words on it with his finger. He then said, "Sir Lu, please have some tea." As the saying goes, one does not hit a smiling person. Leng Shiqi also took a symbolic sip. Before he put down the teacup, a manservant held a plate in front of him. There were 5 jade slips placed on it. These are the 5th level cultivation techniques collected by the shop. "Sir Lu, please take a look." Chapter 517. So fast, Leng Shiqi thought to himself and then checked the jade slips one by one. Not long after, he frowned and put down the jade slips. Steward Zhong smiled and asked, "What is Lord Lu's problem?" The jade slips only briefly described the characteristics of the cultivation method, but did not say which spiritual cavities can be opened. "This is slightly inappropriate," Leng Shiqi leaned back and said indifferently. Steward Zhong's smile froze, then he immediately smiled and said, "So that's how it is, this one was negligent." Saying this, he took out the mirror again and wrote a sentence. In less than 10 breaths of time, the servant came back with a new plate. "Lord Lu, please take a look again," Steward Zhong gestured with his hand. Leng Shiqi finally felt the benefits of his identity. This was a far cry from the treatment he received when he first bought a cultivation technique. He looked through the 5 cultivation methods again and found that only 2 of them were useful to him, but the number of spiritual cavities that could be opened was only 7 or 8. Just as Wu Diao said, the cultivation methods that could be sold in the shop were very ordinary. But it was better than nothing. He picked up one of the jade slips and asked, "How many spiritual stones is this golden cauldron art?" "Lord Lu is too polite about the price. This shop can give this cultivation method to Lord, just treat it as making friends." Steward Zhong had no intention of taking the money. Leng Shiqi instantly saw through Steward Zhong's thoughts. He was just unfamiliar with him, and wanted to use this as a pretext to get closer to him. For Leng Shiqi, this could be considered as saving some spiritual stones, but it would also be related to the shop. He hesitated for a moment but still reached out to take it. From Wu Diao's words, he could see that this was not just his case. Wu Diao must have also gained a lot from these shops. Leng Shiqi actually did not want to get too involved with these shops, but in this environment, everyone else was doing the same and only he was aloof, he would be ostracized by others. In any case, it could help him save a lot of spiritual stones, so why not? Steward Zhong's smile deepened when he saw Leng Shiqi's cultivation technique. He was about to say something when Leng Shiqi beat him to it. "I accept Steward Zhong's kind intentions and will remember them. I'll take my leave first." After saying that, he left the place without hesitation. Manager Zhong immediately sent people to inquire about the Leng Shiqi. After Leng Shiqi had tasted the benefits, he went out and specifically chose those large-scale shops. These kinds of shops were generally not closed. Using his identity as an envoy inspector, he really managed to obtain 4 Tier 5 cultivation techniques. Including the one on his body, there were a total of 5. Although there wasn't anything profound about these cultivation methods, they were superior in quantity. Adding them all together, they could help him open up quite a few new spiritual cavities. If he were to open them all, he would have a total of 310 spiritual cavities. If his luck was good, he would be able to buy 1 or 2 suitable cultivation methods from the auction, and he would be able to gather enough spiritual cavities. With a satisfied mood, Leng Shiqi returned to the courtyard of the 29 guards. However, before he entered the courtyard, he bumped into He Feichen, whose face was full of anxiety. "What's wrong? Why are you so flustered?" Leng Shiqi vaguely felt that trouble had come. Seeing Leng Shiqi return, He Feichen's expression changed. He pulled Leng Shiqi aside and whispered, "My lord, Wei Xiangming is here." Leng Shiqi had never heard of this person before, so he asked, "Who is Wei Xiangming?" "He is the envoy inspector of the 28 guards. His cultivation is at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm. He Feichen said in a deep voice, the 28 guards is right next to us. We have a grudge against each other because of a mission. We have never been on good terms. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi knew that trouble had come, but he still didn't know what Wei Xiangming was here for. He asked He Feichen, what's going on? My lord, didn't you ask me to apply for some manpower? Unexpectedly, I happened to meet Wei Xiangming there. After inquiring, I learned that Wei Xiangming wanted to transfer the 5 of us to the 28 guards when he heard that the 29 guards were going to be reorganized. My lord, you know that we don't see eye to eye with him. If we were really transferred to the 28 guards, we would definitely suffer a lot. Maybe we would even die while carrying out extremely dangerous missions. Of course, I didn't want to, so I explained my intention. Wei Xiangming also knew that my lord had come to take office. Therefore, it was impossible for the 29 guards to be reorganized, so he came directly without caring about his face and has been waiting for my lord to come back. I found an excuse to sneak out. I just wanted my lord to lie low for a while and not have a direct confrontation with Wei Xiangming. Leng Shiqi chuckled, you mean to let me be a coward? He Feichen immediately shook his head, I don't dare to have such an idea, but Wei Xiangming? Enough, Leng Shiqi cut him off, take me to see this Wei Xiangming. This. He Feichen hesitated, but when he saw Leng Shiqi's indifferent expression, he obediently shut his mouth. As a subordinate, he had already done what he should do. Even if he lost face in the end, he couldn't be blamed. Wei Xiangming was a very thin middle-aged man. He looked a little weak, but there were 2 terrifying scars on his face that gave people a very scary feeling. At this time, Wei Xiangming was sitting in Leng Shiqi's seat in a dignified manner. He was playing with the teacup in his hand, looking a little bored. Lord Lu is new here. He might have been attracted by the prosperity of the imperial capital. I don't think he'll come back tonight, Huang said politely. He had already planned to leave, but he was still a member of the 29 guards. Naturally, he didn't want to see anyone else fall into Wei Xiangming's hands. No rush, no rush. I have plenty of time. Even if I have to wait here for an entire night, it won't be a problem. Wei Xiangming chuckled without a trace of tyranny. However, those who were familiar with him knew that he was a ruthless person. The more indifferent he appeared, the stronger the anger in his heart. This envoy has just taken office, and an important guest has already come to visit. I'm sorry for being late. At this time, Leng Shiqi walked into the hall and said with a fake smile. Wei Xiangming glanced at Leng Shiqi and continued to play with the teacup in his hand. He said with disdain, since when can someone in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm become an envoy inspector? The future of the Dark Lightning Guards is truly worrying. He Feichen interrupted. Lord Lu was personally appointed by Manager Gao. Could it be that Lord Wei has doubts about Manager Gao's decision? Don't use Manager Gao to pressure me. In the past few years, he has placed quite a few people in the Dark Lightning Guards. This has already caused the dissatisfaction of the other 3 great managers. This Lu Xingji's cultivation isn't qualified at all. Being an envoy inspector is breaking the rules of the Dark Lightning Guards. I dare say this even in front of Manager Gao. Wei Xiangming's tone was very unyielding. Leng Shiqi's eyes moved slightly. He guessed that Wei Xiangming didn't come looking for trouble on the spur of the moment. Instead, there was someone pushing him from the shadows. Chapter 518. As the envoy inspector, how could Wei Xiangming be a reckless person? If he came to the door in such a domineering manner, it would cause a lot of gossip. However, he still did so without fear of eunuch Gao, which meant that he was instructed by someone. The person who instigated it was very likely to be one of the other 3 chiefs. Leng Shiqi was also a little helpless. He had only been here for 1 day, but he was already involved in the open and secret struggle between the 4 directors. As expected, the headquarters of Dark Thunder Guards would not be so peaceful. You guys go out first. Leng Shiqi turned to He Feichen, Mr. Huang and others and said. They were also very clear that they were not qualified to participate in the following matters, so they left together. But when they walked to the door, Leng Shiqi said again, stay away. Stay away. He Feichen and others were all confused, but they still did as he said. In the hall, Leng Shiqi did not want to beat around the bush, so he simply said, what do you want to do? Just say it. Wei Xiangming finally put down his teacup and crossed his legs. With a bit of arrogance, he said, He Feichen must have secretly told you that the 29th Guard Squad will be merged into my 28th Guard Squad, including you. Oh, you want to take off my clothes as the envoy inspector? You are quite arrogant. Leng Shiqi waved his hand in front of his nose, as if he really smelled something stinky. Wei Xiangming's expression froze. He had expected that Leng Shiqi would be furious and threaten to find eunuch Gao and so on. But now Leng Shiqi's action was completely out of his expectation. He looked at Leng Shiqi again. He always felt that Leng Shiqi had an indescribable temperament, as if he was a little indifferent to everything, so he planned to test further. Naive. I'll be frank with you. If you had the cultivation of Gang Spirit Realm, I wouldn't dare to bully you. You can only blame yourself for not living up to expectations. After all, this is a world where strength is respected. Wei Xiangming said with obvious disdain. Leng Shiqi should be angry now, right? However, what Wei Xiangming didn't expect was that Leng Shiqi calmly shook a finger. You're right about one thing. This is a world where strength is respected, but you're wrong about one thing. Really? What did I say wrong? Wei Xiangming smiled contemptuously. That is my strength. Leng Shiqi's voice was like a heavy hammer falling to the ground. At the same time, a red and black spirit sword appeared in his hand. With a shake of the blade, a dazzling blood-red sword light burst out. However, there was actually a shadow hidden within the sword radiance that was difficult to detect. Wei Xiangming did not expect Leng Shiqi to make a move. However, at this moment he was secretly happy. Once Leng Shiqi made the first move, this matter would blow up and his mission would be completed. He snorted coldly and was still sitting in the chair. He took a step and the ground immediately cracked. Threads of golden light intertwined like tentacles and broke the sword radiance. In front of my soft metal spiritual gang, you'd better put away this sword technique. Wei Xiangming sneered, but he did not notice the shadow sword radiance hidden by Leng Shiqi. Just as he was speaking, the shadow, like a poisonous snake hidden in the dark, finally found an opportunity. It instantly turned into an afterimage and stabbed in front of Wei Xiangming. This move was Leng Shiqi's Crimson Demon Double Shadow Swords, had been modified and integrated into the Bloody Killing Seven Swords. It was both explosive and sneaky. Wei Xiangming's expression changed. He hurriedly flew back and shouted. A golden ripple washed the space and shattered the shadow sword radiance. He thought it was despicable, but before he could say anything, hundreds of triple sword chi had already shot out from all directions. Each sword chi contained 3 different breaths. In an instant, the sword chi destroyed the hall, and there were even countless sword marks on the ground. A huge steel saber appeared in Wei Xiangming's hand. There were 5 golden rings on the back of the saber. It was also a 6th-level spiritual weapon. As a middle-stage Gang Spirit Realm cultivator, he was forced to use his spiritual weapon by a middle-stage Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator. This was simply an insult to him. The golden saber was held horizontally, and the horrible saber intent rose to the sky. Dazzling golden spiritual gangs surged and destroyed the triple sword chi wherever it went. Wei Xiangming gently stroked the blade with his left hand. The blade suddenly trembled slightly, and 3 golden blade shadows appeared behind him. He said with a gloomy face, Lu Xingji, you dare to sneak attack me. Today I'll take you and send you to the punishment hall. Even Supervisor Gao won't be able to say anything. Their fight was not small, and it was soon discovered by He Feichen and the other 4. At this moment they finally knew why Leng Shiqi asked them to go away. It turned out that he had already planned to do it. But the 5 people all frowned. Just now, Leng Shiqi asked them to go away in advance, which meant that it was very likely that Leng Shiqi made the first move. They had personally experienced the strength of Leng Shiqi. He was definitely comparable to a spirit cultivator who had just entered the Gang Spirit Realm. But Wei Xiangming was at the middle stage of the Gang Spirit Realm. Moreover, Wei Xiangming was a veteran envoy inspector. He enjoyed all kinds of high-level resources, and his fighting strength was very high among those of the same level. Therefore, they believed that Leng Shiqi was no match for Wei Xiangming. And this matter was no longer about who was strong or weak. If Leng Shiqi really made the first move, Wei Xiangming could accuse him of murdering his colleagues. They all sighed that Leng Shiqi was still too young and impulsive. In the battle, Leng Shiqi narrowed his eyes. He could feel the terrible power in the 3 golden saber shadows, but he was not afraid at all. Instead, boundless fighting spirit surged in his heart. A blood-colored mark in the shape of a magatama appeared on his forehead, and the ghost blood tattoo emerged. His cultivation and spiritual power soared all the way to the late stage of the Spirit Aperture Realm, and his spiritual power was also pushed to the extreme by him. A colorful light flashed in his eyes, and in Wei Xiangming's eyes, Leng Shiqi instantly turned into 5 gods, as if he could take his life with just one look. 5 God Spirit Assimilation Skill. Leng Shiqi, who had condensed his spirit, even didn't know the limit of his spiritual power. The 5 God Spirit Assimilation skill could make Wei Xiangming, an expert at the middle stage of the Gang Spirit realm, fall for it. But unfortunately, the Gang Spirit realm could steal a trace of the power of heaven and earth, and its resistance to illusion was very strong. He woke up in the blink of an eye. This amount of time was more than enough. Boom. The ground around Leng Shiqi was pressed down by an invisible spiritual pressure, and Leng Shiqi's skin turned into gray scales. A set of black armor covered his body, and there was even a strange long tail behind him. There were blood-colored incantations flashing all over his body, which looked very strange. However, Leng Shiqi didn't expose his other 2 arms. This was the wild demon blood beast body. Chapter 519. An aura that seemed to come from ancient demonic beasts spread out, intimidating all living things. Even He Fei Chen's group of 5 who were far away from the battle felt a chill run down their spines. What kind of aura is this? It actually gives me the urge to run away. He Fei Chen's face was filled with panic. Not only him but the others also had the same thought. Only old Huang was the calmest. He said in a deep voice, "Not good, they are serious. Go and find someone." Everyone came to their senses. He Fei Chen said, "I'll go and ask the Imperial Eunuch Envoy. Old Huang, I'll have to trouble you to go and see if Steward Gao is here. You guys go and find the Imperial Eunuch Envoy that you have a good relationship with. Let's go." Let's go. The 5 of them knew that with their strength they couldn't do anything. They could only run out and ask someone to stop them as fast as they could. Leng Shiqi completed his transformation. Wei Xiangming had just broken free from the 5 gods assimilation technique. He didn't even have time to see Leng Shiqi's appearance before Leng Shiqi directly appeared in front of him. Leng Shiqi sent out a punch. Boundless and pure demonic energy absorbed all the surrounding spiritual energy. A huge black demonic lotus quietly bloomed. In the blink of an eye, the demonic lotus changed into a swastika character and fell down. The demonic energy swastika character carried a powerful suppressive force, as if it could suppress heaven and earth. It was about to kill Wei Xiangming. Wei Xiangming's expression finally became serious. The golden light in his hand rotated. The 3 golden shadows behind him constantly trembled and let out an ear-piercing buzzing sound. Even the surrounding air trembled. Triple gold grand opening. 3 golden sword auras tore through the night sky. Violent spiritual highland wreaked havoc. The terrifying sword intent filled the air and cut the demonic energy swastika character into several pieces. However, the demonic energy swastika character didn't directly dissipate. Instead, it scattered into a cloud of demonic energy. There seemed to be a dragon flying in the sky inside. Immediately, a pair of huge demonic dragon claws tore through the demonic clouds and attacked Wei Xiangming. The power of this demonic dragon claw was mediocre. It was far inferior to the demonic chi swastika symbol, but a trace of surprise flashed across Wei Xiangming's eyes. Whether it was Leng Shiqi's Black Lotus demonic fist or his Sanjin Kai Tai, they were both level 6 spiritual skills. After using this level of spiritual skill, the spiritual power in the body would enter a very short stagnation period. Everyone's foundation was different, so the length of this stagnation period was different. However, after Leng Shiqi used the Black Lotus Demon Fist, there was no hindrance, and then he used the Earth Fiend Demon Dragon Claw. Wei Xiangming didn't think that he could achieve such a smooth and natural connection between different spiritual techniques. Not only him, even those Gang Spirit Realm Masters he was familiar with couldn't do it. For Lu Xingji to be chosen by Manager Gao, he must be quite capable. As the demonic dragon claw descended, Wei Xiangming only needed to lightly wave his saber to disperse it. However, at this moment, a long spear pierced straight towards him. It was a long spear covered with golden scales, but there was a sense of turbulence in the spear. The shadows of the spear were like endless waves. Wei Xiangming could no longer keep a straight face. Judging from his strength, this spear technique was very brilliant, but it was still within the range that he could resist. What shocked him was Leng Shiqi's storm-like offensive. From the initial probing of the hidden sword, the Tri-Extinction Sword Chi, the Black Lotus Demonic Fist, the Earth Fiend Demonic Shadow Claw, and now the Golden Wave Spear, this series of attacks had never stopped, completely disrupting Wei Xiangming's rhythm. At this point, If Wei Xiangming couldn't break the situation, he would always be suppressed by Leng Shiqi. He was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, but he was suppressed by a spirit cultivator who was a whole realm lower than him. If this spread out, he would never have the face to see anyone in the Dark Thunder Guard. I just wanted to teach you a lesson, but now you can't blame me. It's your own fault that you got injured. Wei Xiangming said fiercely. His momentum suddenly became extremely irritable. His eyes flashed with golden light, and there was a faint sound of thunder and lightning. Crack. Wei Xiangming turned into a golden light and suddenly disappeared. So fast. Leng Shiqi was shocked. Even if he opened his supercilious eyes, he could barely catch a glimpse of Wei Xiangming's figure. At this time it was not suitable to fight recklessly. He took back the golden billow spear, stepped on a deep pit with purple thunder and lightning under his feet, and directly appeared hundreds of feet away. Just as he left, the sharp saber aura broke out, leaving a huge saber mark on the ground. He also knows high-level body movement spiritual skills. Wei Xiangming appeared, and the move that he thought was foolproof was dodged. Looking at Leng Shiqi hundreds of feet away, he felt more and more difficult. Then let's see who's faster. Wei Xiangming turned into a golden lightning again, and Leng Shiqi also exerted the purple thunder steps to the limit, narrowly avoiding Wei Xiangming's attack every time. Although he was not hit, judging from the aftermath of the saber aura, even if he opened the wild evil demon blood beast body, he would be seriously injured. He couldn't afford it. How much spiritual power do you have? I'd like to see how long you can hold on. Wei Xiangming gradually became a little arrogant, and now he unconsciously had a killing intent in his heart. Leng Shiqi ignored him and continued to dodge. Every time he was about to be hit, he would use the body movement spiritual skill, Swaying Residual Wind, in the Nirvana Remnant Wind Scroll. This was a body movement spiritual skill, which was like a residual wind and difficult to catch. He used the two body movement spiritual skills in succession without any disharmony. In the courtyard of the 29 guards, there were two figures moving around like lightning. Even the Spirit Pulse Realm cultivators couldn't see their figures clearly. The more time passed, the more anxious Wei Xiangming became. His cultivation was higher by a large realm, but he still couldn't take down Leng Shiqi. He only felt his face burning. But at this time, Leng Shiqi's figure suddenly stopped, and Wei Xiangming immediately laughed. Haha, you don't have enough spiritual power, right? Watch me take you. Wei Xiangming kept waving the saber in his hand, and the golden rings on it made a ding-ding-dang-dang sound. The sound was like maggots that attacked Leng Shiqi's mind, and at the same time, the golden saber aura continued to explode, illuminating the night sky. Leng Shiqi stood upright and his arms propped up to the side. With a thought, a pale yellow brilliance rose around his body, forming a semicircular shield. Child's play. Wei Xiangming sensed that the shield was extremely weak. It seemed that Leng Shiqi didn't have much spiritual power left. In the blink of an eye, the earth-shattering saber aura had already arrived in front of the shield. But what made Wei Xiangming turn pale with fright was that when his saber aura was less than a foot away from the shield, it was all bounced back by a strange invisible force. The saber aura that was bounced back collided with the saber aura behind it, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard everywhere. This was the spiritual skill that Wu Diao gave to Leng Shiqi, the Earth Pulse. Chapter 520. The biggest feature of the Earth Pulsation was its anti-gravity, which was an extremely rare ability that always had unexpected effects. In the small chaos cave of 5 elements, Wu Diao delayed the fall of the black sphere with the help of the Earth Pulsation, which showed how extraordinary it was. But in Leng Shiqi's view, Wu Diao had only practiced the Earth Pulsation to the small success realm at most, because he himself had reached the completion realm. The Earth Pulsation at the completion realm didn't need such a long preparation time at all. Leng Shiqi could use it at will, and it was more convenient for him to use it. He sharply reduced the range of the Earth Pulsation so that the anti-gravity could be exerted to the maximum. Even Wei Xiangming's blade, which was unique to Gang Spirit Realm, could be bounced back. Wei Xiangming would never have thought that his saber would be destroyed by his own saber. He had never seen such a magical spiritual skill, but he was not too surprised, because Leng Shiqi had surprised him too much tonight. And there was an inexplicable panic in his heart. From the beginning of the fight he had never been at a disadvantage, but his opponent was only at the middle stage of Spirit Aperture Realm. In fact, unconsciously, Wei Xiangming had regarded Leng Shiqi as an opponent of the same level. What did this mean? The middle stage of Spirit Aperture Realm had the battle strength comparable to the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, which meant that Leng Shiqi's talent could only be described as monstrous. Such a person also had the support of eunuch Gao. As long as he didn't die prematurely, he was bound to become a figure at the level of the 4 directors in the future. At that time, where should Wei Xiangming go? He finally began to regret coming to Leng Shiqi. Thinking of this, Wei Xiangming didn't intend to fight anymore. Anyway, it was Leng Shiqi who made the first move. Grasping this point could be regarded as completing his task. Just as he was about to stop, Leng Shiqi didn't intend to stop. He saw that Wei Xiangming was a little absent-minded. His figure suddenly dissipated like a dream bubble, and then endless colorful petals fell over the whole courtyard. A look of infatuation appeared in Wei Xiangming's eyes, but he quickly regained his senses and said angrily, "It's an illusion again." Then, every petal shot out a strand of triseverance sword chi. Looking up, it was as if the sky had been dyed in 5 brilliant colors. "Enough. You know that this level of sword chi can't hurt me. Stop. Don't waste it." Wei Xiangming was still trying to persuade Leng Shiqi when he suddenly felt a dangerous aura. He had been in the Dark Thunder Guards for decades, so he was extremely sensitive to danger. His expression turned serious. It turned out that a golden sun had appeared in the sky of the 3 unique sword chi. No, not just one round. 9 Leng Shiqi extended their colorful wings and stood in the night sky, each holding the sun in their hands and looking down at the world. Wei Xiangming's pupils suddenly contracted. He wasn't afraid of the body illusion technique, nor was he shocked by the ability to fly. Instead, it was the scarlet gold flames on the blazing sun that caused his soul to throb. Those flames could take his life. What made him even crazier was that he saw the undisguised killing intent in Leng Shiqi's eyes. Leng Shiqi seemed to really dare to kill him and could really kill him. Leng Shiqi was using the glorious sun poisonous yang palm, but he had replaced the poisonous flames with the crimson gold earth dragon flame. This was the glorious sun dragon flame palm. The horror of the heavenly flame was not something that ordinary people could withstand. In addition, Wei Xiangming cultivated the gold attribute cultivation method, which was even more restrained by the flame. So Wei Xiangming felt death approaching before he even made a move. Leng Shiqi didn't dare to be careless. He wouldn't give Wei Xiangming any chance. Under the suppression of the tri-extinction sword chi, the 9 Leng Shiqi waved their arms and the 9 golden suns burst out with terrifying power. 9 suns trampling the heavens. Wei Xiangming was terrified by the golden earth dragon flame, but he was also someone who had experienced countless battles. He still raised his golden saber and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Blood chi rose from the golden saber. As it rotated, it seemed to draw upon the power of heaven and earth. The entire courtyard shook. A saber light that contained all of Wei Xiangming's spirit energy and blood cut through the night sky, as if it wanted to cut down the 9 suns together. Boom boom boom. Violent explosions occurred in the sky. The saber light and flames flew everywhere. The deafening sound could be heard clearly from 10 kilometers away. Many people came out of their houses to look at Dark Thunder Manor, not knowing what was going on inside. Strangely enough, Dark Thunder Manor's experts should have noticed the commotion caused by the two's exchange, yet none of them had come to check on the situation. Even He Feichen and the others who went out to invite people were nowhere to be seen. When all the sound and light dissipated, the courtyard of number 29 guards had been full of potholes. All the houses were destroyed and turned into charcoal. There was still a trace of fire burning everything in its way, including Wei Xiangming. At this time, Wei Xiangming was no longer as arrogant as before. His whole body was covered with terrible burns. His skin and flesh were overturned and bleeding, but the blood evaporated as soon as it came out. However, he was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, and Gang Spirit helped him resist a lot of power. He was only seriously injured after taking the bright Sun Dragon Flame Palm. There was only disbelief in his eyes. He couldn't believe that he was defeated by Leng Shiqi. What was even more unbelievable was that Leng Shiqi was closing in on him step by step, and the killing intent on his body was almost condensed into a substance. He wants to kill me. Does he really dare to kill me? Wei Xiangming roared in his heart, but his throat had been burned, so he couldn't speak. He could only send a voice transmission at once. Lu Xing. Lord Lu, let's talk nicely. I was only following someone's orders. I never thought of taking your life. Leng Shiqi turned a deaf ear to him. He used his palm as a blade, and an invisible blade of the primordial spirit directly tore through Wei Xiangming's spiritual defense. It instantly destroyed his spiritual space, and the expression in his eyes became extremely lifeless. Leng Shiqi walked forward and pressed Wei Xiangming's head. He said to the air, "Have you seen enough?" Swish. Suddenly, a few figures appeared in the originally empty place. Ifeichen and the other 4 stood respectfully at the back and 2 people stood at the front. They were Eunuch Gao and an extremely old man with a long beard. "This is the first time I've seen such strength in Spirit Aperture Realm. No wonder you're the leader of the elite society. Very good." The long-bearded old man's words were full of praise. Eunuch Gao's lips curled into a rare smile. "This is one of the 4 managers, Manager Hai. Why haven't you come over to greet him?" Now Leng Shiqi finally understood. Ifeichen and the others also understood. This was a trap set up by Eunuch Gao and Manager Hai. They wanted to see his true strength. Leng Shiqi tilted his head and smiled. Then he did something that no one expected. With a ka sound he twisted off Wei Xiangming's head. Wei Xiangming was wrong. He wasn't wrong in finding trouble with Leng Shiqi, nor was he wrong in underestimating Leng Shiqi. He was wrong in not expecting Leng Shiqi to have the intention to kill him when he made his move. Ifeichen and the other 4 immediately revealed expressions of fear. They weren't afraid that Leng Shiqi had the ability to kill Wei Xiangming, but that he killed Wei Xiangming in front of Manager Hai. This was equivalent to slapping his face in front of Manager Hai. They also noticed that this Sir Lu was usually quite amiable and gave off a feeling that he was easy to get along with. But in reality he was more daring than anyone else. He made a move as soon as he said so, and he was crazier than anyone else. Leng Shiqi carried Wei Xiangming's head and walked in front of Manager Hai. Subordinate Lu Xingji greets Manager Hai. Chapter 521. Leng Shiqi's actions were undoubtedly a provocation to Manager Hai. Ifeichen and the others were all trembling in fear. However, the admiration in Manager Hai's eyes grew even stronger. Young people are still hot-tempered. How enviable. You've picked up a treasure this time. I've lost this round. The 28 guards are yours. He said the last sentence to Eunuch Gao. Eunuch Gao straightened his sleeves and seemed to be in a good mood. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Lu Xingji, tomorrow you'll go and take over the 28 guards. You can arrange the personnel freely. Yes, sir. Leng Shiqi cupped his hands and said, "Disperse." After Eunuch Gao said that, his body transformed into a gloomy, cold air and disappeared. Manager Hai gave Leng Shiqi a meaningful look and also disappeared on ripples. Leng Shiqi fell directly to the ground, large beads of sweat dripping down his face. His whole body was in extreme pain. This was the price he had to pay for maintaining the blood mark of serenity and the wild demon blood beast body for a long time. Ifeichen's eyes were sharp and he moved faster. He ran over immediately and took out a pill to recover spiritual energy. Lu Zhao, Lu Xia, and Lu Dong also immediately came over and asked about his well-being. A person in the middle stage of the Spirit Aperture Realm killed a person in the middle stage of the Gang Spirit Realm. Such a person's future achievements were simply limitless. Only Huang Lao still stood in place. He looked at the dilapidated courtyard and sighed slightly. He turned around and found someone to repair it. After dawn, Leng Shiqi woke up from cultivation. After this battle, his spiritual energy had steadily increased, and his body strength had also increased by a notch. Killing a person in the middle stage of the Gang Spirit Realm head-on did not make him conceited. Instead, he began to reflect on the details of the battle. He believed that there were 2 key points in his victory. First, he had the mentality of killing Wei Xiangming from the beginning. Wei Xiangming's disdain at the beginning, probing, attaching importance, and finally wanting to stop. In fact, he did not have much fighting spirit left. In terms of mentality, Leng Shiqi had already won. The second key point was the wild demon blood beast physique and the crimson gold earth dragon flame. If not for his wild demon blood beast body, he wouldn't have had the ability to face Wei Xiangming head-on. For example, he had easily neutralized the first 2 moves. Only Leng Shiqi's wild demonic blood beast form gave him the ability to do so. The crimson gold earth dragon flame, as a variant of heaven and earth, was originally very powerful. Although Wei Xiangming did not cultivate a demonic art, fire-suppressed metal, and was still restrained by the crimson gold earth dragon flame. This was the reason why Wei Xiangming was heavily injured by the dragon flame palm, giving Leng Shiqi the opportunity to kill him. Moreover, he had sensed that something was wrong when he was fighting Wei Xiangming. This was the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guards. They were fighting so fiercely, but they didn't attract anyone's attention. How was this possible? Unless someone had given the order, no one was allowed to come here no matter what happened. The only people who could give such an order in the Dark Thunder Guards were the 4 chiefs. Thus, he guessed that this might be a trap targeted at him, to see what his strength and potential were like. Therefore he was not afraid of exposing his trump cards. Other than the demon arrival battle saber and the ephemeral bloom, he had used all his skills to show his value. This was the only way for him to climb up the ranks. As long as he was in a high position he would naturally have more resources, and his trump cards would only increase. However, this battle had also exposed his weakness, which was that his cultivation level and spiritual energy were not enough. The 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm was definitely an expert in the outside world, and he could even start his own sect. However, in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guards, it was nothing. It could only be considered average. His combat strength was strong, but he used high-level spiritual techniques. While they were powerful, they also consumed a lot of spiritual energy, so he could not fight for a long time. He muttered, "After the guards settle down, I will focus on increasing my cultivation level." As for increasing his cultivation level, he had a way. Whether it was the yin-yang spirit convergence array or refining the soul stone, they could all allow him to increase his cultivation level quickly. Moreover, he would enter the dragon vein to cultivate soon. There were still 10 days, and he believed that it would be enough for his cultivation level to increase dramatically. After making up his mind, he called He Fei-Chen over and asked, "Tell me about Chief Hai." After seeing Leng Shiqi, He Fei-Chen lowered his attitude to the lowest. If the first time Leng Shiqi made a move they were convinced, then last night's battle made them respect and fear Leng Shiqi. A person who was so strong that he even dared to kill the envoy inspector and offend the 4 chiefs. Wouldn't it be a piece of cake to deal with a War Thunder Guard like He Fei-Chen? He immediately said respectfully, replying to Sir, that Chief Hai is not ordinary. He can be said to be the most senior person in the Dark Thunder Guards. In terms of seniority, even the great commander is far inferior. If this humble one remembers correctly, Manager Hai has held the position of one of the 4 managers for over 60 years. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but be surprised. He had been one of the 4 chiefs for more than 60 years, but he couldn't have been one of the 4 chiefs when he was born. Counting it this way, Chief Hai had been in the Dark Thunder Guards for at least 70 to 80 years. This kind of seniority was indeed incomparable. Chief Hai can be said to be highly respected in the Dark Thunder Guards. When the great commander isn't around for many years, the 4 chiefs are in charge of things, but Chief Hai definitely has the most power. For decades, the Dark Thunder Guards have never had any trouble. This kind of ability is admirable. He Fei-Chen also had a look of worship. He suddenly looked at Leng Shiqi. "It's just that this humble servant has something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." "Just say it." Leng Shiqi casually waved his hand. He Fei-Chen then said, "This humble servant believes that Sir's actions last night were too impulsive. Even though Chief Hai didn't say it, he is still dissatisfied with Sir in his heart. Whether or not Chief Hai is dissatisfied with me, I don't know and I don't care." Leng Shiqi was very open-minded. He asked He Fei-Chen, "Do you know who gave me the position of envoy inspector?" He Fei-Chen blurted out, "Chief Gao. That's why I'm loyal to Chief Gao. Even if I offended Chief Hai by killing Wei Xiangming last night, Chief Gao will still be happy and will think more highly of me. Chief Hai can't give me anything in the first place, so offending him or not doesn't make much of a difference. On the contrary, I'll give Chief Gao face and he'll give me corresponding benefits. Do you understand?" Leng Shiqi said this and patted He Fei-Chen's shoulder. He Fei-Chen finally understood. At the same time he couldn't help but admire Leng Shiqi. Sure enough, people in different positions had different ways of thinking. Leng Shiqi suddenly stood up and said, "Let's go." "To where?" He Fei-Chen was stunned. "To incorporate the 28 guards." Chapter 522. The 28th Guard and the 29th Guard were neighbors. There was only a wall between the two. Last night, the battle between Leng Shiqi and Wei Xiangming was so fierce that the wall had already collapsed. Therefore, Leng Shiqi and He Fei-Chen quickly arrived at the 28th Guard. The 28th Guard originally had 12 people. Of course now there were only 11. Leng Shiqi had also learned that generally speaking, the average number of guards should be around 15. The 28th Guard indeed had fewer people. No wonder Wei Xiangming coveted the 29th Guard. Early in the morning, the 28th Guard received a headless body that had been burned to charcoal. Naturally it was Wei Xiangming. Knowing that their envoy inspector had died, the others were naturally worried sick. They immediately tried to find out what had happened last night and who had killed Wei Xiangming. When they learned that it was Leng Shiqi, the new envoy inspector at the middle stage of Spirit Aperture Realm, who killed Wei Xiangming, their first thought was that it was impossible. A middle-stage Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator killed a middle-stage Gang Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator? Was this a dream? Unfortunately, no matter whether they believed it or not, this was the truth. Moreover, Leng Shiqi had already brought people to them. One of them seemed to have seen Leng Shiqi before. He hurriedly shouted, it's him, he's Lu Xingji." He Feichen immediately shouted, "How dare you call Lord Lu's name directly? How dare you?" However, Leng Shiqi stopped He Feichen. He said with a smile, "I'm here under the order of Steward Gao to incorporate the 28th Guard. From now on we're a family. We're a family, so we should be harmonious." The 28th Guard was skeptical, but no one dared to stand out and question him. In the Dark Thunder Guard, no one dared to use the orders of the 4 stewards. Moreover, the person in front of them was a ruthless person who even dared to kill the envoy inspector. Who dared to question him? The person who spoke just now shrank to the back. They didn't feel good about being incorporated just like that. After all, there was indeed a conflict between the 2 guards. Although the previous inspectors of the 2 guards had died, there was still He Feichen and the others. They could imagine that their future days would not be good. Especially since some of them had fought with He Feichen and the others before. In the future, it was very likely that they would make things difficult for them. One of them said cautiously, "Lord Lu, this subordinate was injured some time ago and injured my foundation. I'm planning to retire. I wonder if Lord..." Whoosh. Before this person could finish speaking, he saw a blood-red sword light slashing towards him. He was only at the 5th layer of the Spirit Aperture Realm, so he immediately turned pale with fright. His legs lit up with resplendent spirit apertures, and his figure turned into an afterimage as he tried to dodge far away. However, what he didn't expect was that the scene in front of him suddenly spun, and he felt dizzy. He cursed inwardly and then he lost consciousness. The others looked at the corpse that had been cut in half by Leng Shiqi. The scarlet-red blood and organs spilled all over the ground. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief, and many of them secretly wiped off their cold sweat. No matter what, that person was still at the Spirit Aperture Realm middle stage, but he was killed in one move like a weak chicken. Was this Lu Xingji really that terrifying? What made everyone even more terrified was that Leng Shiqi actually dared to kill the Dark Thunder Guard in front of everyone. This was a great taboo and he could definitely be sent to the disciplinary hall. A light punishment would be life imprisonment, and a heavy punishment would be death. Leng Shiqi didn't care at all. Eunuch Gao had said last night that he could freely deal with the 28 guards, which was equivalent to giving him the power to kill. He wiped the blood off his hands and said with a smile, "I just said we are a family and a family should be neat. If anyone wants to leave, then they don't treat us as family. Since we are not a family, humph." Saying this, he laughed coldly. This laugh immediately made everyone tremble in fear. "We are willing to pledge our loyalty to Master Lu." The remaining 10 people of the 28 guards said in unison. Leng Shiqi nodded with satisfaction. "Very good, He Feichen. This humble one is here. I will leave the handover process to you. Get it done as soon as possible." This humble one understands. After saying all of this, Leng Shiqi didn't pay any more attention to these people. He believed that these people wouldn't dare to cause any more trouble. Thus, he returned to the room that he had just rebuilt to continue cultivating. When night came, He Feichen came looking for him with a tired but excited face. "Master, everything has been taken care of. The 29 guards now have 16 people. That Wei Xiangming wanted to swallow us up, but he didn't expect us to swallow him up. The ones that needed to be broken up were the 28 guards. Aha, this is really satisfying. You are quite fast at doing things." Leng Shiqi first praised him, then said, "Today I made an example of him. The 28 guards won't dare to cause trouble in the short term, but that doesn't mean they won't in the future. Do you understand what I mean?" He Feichen revealed an understanding smile. He took out a small piece of paper from his sleeve and handed it over. "Master, please take a look. The 3 people here are the ones who have the best relationship with Wei Xiangming. They are also people who have fought with us before. As for the rest, they are not a concern. This humble one can take care of them." Leng Shiqi found He Feichen pleasing to the eye. Not only was this person efficient, he also knew how to read people's expressions. It was very easy to use him. "Very good. I will remember these 3 people. In the future, as long as I am not here or in closed-door cultivation, all matters of the 29 guards will be handed over to you. Leng Shiqi had said this to He Feiqian not long after he arrived. However, at that time, the 29 guards were in a predicament of being disbanded and reorganized. Although He Feiqian was secretly happy, he knew that it might not be fulfilled. But now it is different. The 29 guards will soon be able to operate normally. When that time comes, He Feiqian will be under only one person. Many thanks for Master's nurturing. This humble one is willing to be Master's lackey and be loyal for life. He Feiqian immediately half knelt on the ground to show his loyalty. Leng Shiqi secretly smiled. He raised his hand and sent out a wave of qi to help He Feiqian up. You don't have to be a lackey. Do it well, but don't let your cultivation fall behind. In the future, the position of inspector might be yours. Who? He Feiqian's breathing suddenly became hurried. He thought about it and agreed. With Leng Shiqi's current strength, it won't be long before he is promoted to the position of inspector. Then, the position of inspector might very well fall into his hands. He felt a bit dizzy. Leng Shiqi continued, Okay, now you need to help me with something. Master, please give me your orders. He Feiqian said firmly, as if he would really die if Leng Shiqi told him to. Leng Shiqi smiled mysteriously and said, Go find Elder Huang and tell him this. Chapter 523. Not long after, old Huang walked in with a complicated expression. He cupped his hands and said, Master, I have something to ask. Leng Shiqi thought to himself, He's here so soon? He thought that old Huang would only come tomorrow. It seemed that old Huang really wanted to leave. Old Huang, you don't have to be so polite. Please sit down. If you have something to say, just say it. Leng Shiqi said with a warm smile and poured a cup of tea for old Huang. Elder Huang looked at Leng Shiqi's innocent boy-next-door smile and felt a little dazed. Was this really the lunatic who killed Wei Xiangming in front of him last night? Old Huang was also an old man who had been in the Dark Thunder Guard for decades. He had seen all kinds of people in his life, but now he couldn't figure out Leng Shiqi's temperament. So he tentatively asked, Master, now that you have incorporated the 28 guards, you have enough manpower. I don't think you need an old man like me. Old Huang, why do you say that? You're a veteran of the 29th Guard Squad. With you around, you're our backbone. We can lose anyone but Elder Huang. Leng Shiqi immediately shook his head. Old Huang knew that Leng Shiqi wouldn't let him go easily, so he simply said bluntly, To be honest, the last time I escaped from death, my foundation has been hurt. Coupled with my old age, I really can't fight anymore. Instead of raising a cripple like me, it's better to let me go back to the fields and live out my old life. Leng Shiqi knew that what he said was the truth. Old Huang was a spirit cultivator at the peak of the spirit aperture realm. It was reasonable to say that people who entered the 4 realms of the sky would be reborn and live for more than 100 years without any problem. But that was an ideal situation. As a spirit cultivator, it was against the heavens. How could there be no battles along the way? If there was a battle, there would naturally be injuries. If it was just a skin wound, it would be fine, but if there were internal injuries, it would hurt the root. Especially for a veteran like old Huang who had experienced countless battles in his life, his body had long been broken. Therefore, his qi and blood had already begun to decline, and his lifespan was naturally not that long. Once he reached the end of his lifespan, his spiritual strength and mental energy would rapidly weaken. Thus, old Huang would not be able to display much of his combat strength. However, from another perspective, Elder Huang's experience was not something that others could compare to. Even if he was not on the battlefield, he could still handle a lot of things. Leng Shiqi naturally couldn't let Elder Huang go so easily. He also had his own plans. Elder Huang, you're being too serious. Even if you can't carry out missions anymore, you've still built countless Hummers for the Dark Thunder Guards. It's only right that you spend the rest of your life in my 29th Guard Division. I can promise Elder Huang that I won't ask you to carry out any combat missions in the future, as long as you can help me manage the intelligence. His words made Elder Huang a little tempted. This was equivalent to retiring behind the scenes. It seemed like a good idea. However, Elder Huang's heart was already dead. He didn't care about these things at all. Furthermore, he could tell that it was impossible for him to not take out some benefits. Sir, I've already made up my mind. As long as you agree, I can take out all my resources. Huh? Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed. He finally heard these words. Elder Huang, are you serious? I wouldn't dare lie to you, sir. Good. I want Elder Huang's fire attribute cultivation method and all of your fire attribute spiritual techniques. Leng Shiqi stated his purpose. Only then did Elder Huang realize that Leng Shiqi also cultivated spiritual techniques. It turned out that he had been eyeing his own fire attribute cultivation method and spiritual techniques for a long time. Cultivation methods and spiritual techniques were not easily passed down. However, Elder Huang was a rogue cultivator himself. He only joined the Dark Thunder Guards later on, so he didn't care much about inheritances. He agreed without hesitation and took out 3 jade slips from his mustard seed bag and laid them out in a row. The first jade slip is this humble servant's main cultivation method, the Mystic Fire 9 Palace diagram. The second jade slip records some 4th and 5th level spiritual skill. As for the third jade slip, it contains some of this humble servant's cultivation comprehension and secret techniques. The 9 Palace Fire Formation diagram is also included. Leng Shiqi had a deep impression of the 9 Palace Fire diagram. If he used this technique with the pure gold earth dragon flames, its power would definitely be 10 times stronger. Elder Huang is indeed straightforward. I won't be polite with these things. Seeing Leng Shiqi accept the 3 jade slips, Elder Huang secretly sighed in relief. As long as he accepted the items, things would be easy to handle. However, Leng Shiqi suddenly said, "However, Elder Huang still needs to carefully consider whether you want to leave or not." Elder Huang's heart sank. Were these things not enough? What a big appetite. "Sir, what other requests do you have?" His expression didn't change as he asked. "It's not that I have any requests, but rather what requests do you have for me to stay?" At this point, Leng Shiqi took out an exquisite jade box. I wonder if this thing can make Elder Huang stay. Elder Huang really couldn't guess what Leng Shiqi was planning. He looked suspiciously at the jade box and didn't know what to do. "Elder Huang, why don't you open it and take a look?" Leng Shiqi pushed the jade box forward. Elder Huang hesitated for a moment, but still opened the jade box. Immediately, he revealed a shocked expression. Inside was shockingly a crystal formation pill. What was the most attractive thing in this world to a spirit cultivator at the peak of the spirit aperture realm? Without a doubt, it was the crystal formation pill. Elder Huang was originally a loose cultivator. His talent wasn't very high. After entering the Dark Thunder Guard, he didn't have any special resources to support him. Therefore, his current cultivation was something he fought for. However, if he wanted to take another step forward, it would be very, very difficult. First of all, his talent and age greatly limited him. Secondly, there were resources. The treatment in the Dark Thunder Guard was actually very good. However, as a War Thunder Guard, Elder Huang often had high-intensity battles, so most of his resources were used to recuperate. In this way, although he was at the peak of the spirit aperture realm, the spirit astral realm was still somewhat out of reach. The crystal formation pill was his last hope. Originally, he was about to save enough contribution points to exchange for the crystal formation pill from the last mission. But unexpectedly, he was tricked by the Thunder Extermination Alliance. Not only were most of his brothers killed or injured, but he also almost spent all his contribution points to save his life. He didn't have many people around him who were concerned about him. There was no possibility for him to advance in his cultivation. This caused his heart to be dead and he wanted to die in this life. But now, a crystal formation pill was placed in front of him. How could this not move him? However, Elder Huang immediately restrained his mind and asked, "Sir, what do you mean?" As the saying goes, politeness demands reciprocity. Since Elder Huang gave me such a cultivation method and spiritual skill, I naturally should express my gratitude. I just don't know if this crystal formation pill is enough for Elder Huang to continue to help me? Leng Shiqi laughed. This crystal formation pill was found in Wu Diao's mustard seed bracelet. If a crystal formation pill could keep Elder Huang as a senior and possibly create a master of the spirit astral realm, then it would make the best use of it. Chapter 524. Elder Huang stared at the crystallization pill, and his hands in his sleeves trembled slightly. Obviously, he wanted the crystallization pill very much. If he could break through to the gang spirit realm, his lifespan would be greatly extended, which was equivalent to solving 2 of his problems at once. He was really tempted. Leng Shiqi took the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. He raised a finger and a golden flame ignited on it. The temperature of the whole room rose sharply. "Elder Huang, do you recognize this thing?" "Heaven, heaven, strange flame." Elder Huang opened his eyes wide and murmured, In fact, when Leng Shiqi fought with Wei Xiangming last night, he also noticed it, but at that time he was not sure and did not dare to believe that Leng Shiqi had the heaven strange flame. But now the fact was in front of him, and he could finally confirm that the heaven strange flame was a supreme treasure for spirit cultivators who practiced fire techniques. As long as you can break through to the gang spirit realm, I can use the heaven strange flame to help you condense gang spirit. Condense gang spirit with the heaven strange flame. Elder Huang's pupils shrank. In that way, even if he did not have the heaven strange flame, his gang spirit would contain a trace of the heaven strange flame's power. Even if it was only a trace, its power was far beyond the ordinary fire gang spirit. After a long while, Elder Huang sighed dejectedly, I am ashamed to accept it. Ah. Leng Shiqi laughed instead. He could see that Elder Huang had actually agreed in his heart. As the saying goes, having an elder at home is like having a treasure. Elder Huang, you are the treasure of our 29th guard. I have many things to ask for your advice in the future. Alas, I will do my best to assist you, sir. Elder Huang was finally persuaded by Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi picked up the crystallization pill and put it in Elder Huang's hand. You don't have to do anything recently, just break through to the gang spirit realm. If you need anything you can come to me at any time. Yes, sir. When I break through to the gang spirit realm I will fight for you, sir. Elder Huang held the crystallization pill in his hand, and his momentum also changed greatly. The dejectedness had disappeared without a trace, and there was some pride. I await your good news. Then I will take my leave first. I'll drive you. After sending Elder Huang off, Leng Shiqi smiled with satisfaction. In the future all the chores could be handed over to He Feichen, and the intelligence could be handled by Senior Huang. What's more, there might be a powerful gang spirit realm cultivator so he could be a hands-off boss. Then he took out the 3 jade slips that Elder Huang had given him and prepared to cultivate these cultivation methods and spiritual skills. One had to know that what he lacked the most right now was the fire element. This could be considered as making up for one of his major shortcomings. Coupled with the crimson gold earth dragon flame, the fire element would instead become his strongest aspect. What surprised Leng Shiqi the most was that, perhaps because he had never practiced any fire elemental techniques, the mystical Fire 9 Palace painting could actually help him open more than 20 spiritual cavities. Counting it this way, the number of spiritual cavities he could open was already over 330. He was only a dozen or so spiritual cavities away from the final great circle. He cultivated for a night with joy. At noon the next day, when he was about to look for something to eat and drink, he met Wu Diao. As soon as Wu Diao saw Leng Shiqi, he mysteriously pulled him to a secret place and whispered, Brother Xingji, there have been rumors about you these days outside. What happened in the battle that night? I saw the fluctuation of the spiritual skill. It seemed that you had made a move. Was Wei Xiangming really killed by you? Leng Shiqi didn't hide anything. After all, there was nothing to hide in that battle. Sooner or later, it would spread throughout the Dark Thunder Guards. He nodded and said, yes. Wu Diao sucked in a breath of cold air. When he was in the elite club, he had also heard that Leng Shiqi had killed Ji Wen, who had just entered the gang spirit realm. How long had it been since then? Even Wei Xiangming, who was in the middle stage of the gang spirit realm, was killed by Leng Shiqi? What a terrifying strength. What a terrifying speed of progress. Oh, Brother Xingji, you don't know that many people are dissatisfied with you now. They say that you are spoiled and do evil because of eunuch Gao. Maybe you killed Wei Xiangming by some shameful means. Furthermore, that Wei Xiangming is quite popular among the envoy inspectors. Many envoy inspectors are clamoring to avenge him. Brother Xingji, you have to keep a low profile these few days. Wu Diao said with a nervous expression. Leng Shiqi had expected this situation more or less, but he estimated that those people were just talking about it. After all, who would really fight with him for a dead person? Here was the Dark Thunder Guards. No one was a fool. Thank you for your concern, Brother Wu. You didn't come here just to talk about this, did you? Leng Shiqi teased. Hey Brother Xingji, you are really insightful. Last time we mentioned that Tianbao firm was going to hold an auction. I have got the invitation. As he spoke, he took out an exquisite gilded invitation. However, he didn't give it to Leng Shiqi directly. Instead, he secretly rubbed his hands. How could Leng Shiqi not know what he meant? The fact that Wu Diao had helped him get the invitation card was already an act of kindness. There must be a price behind it. Leng Shiqi gave him a total of 10,000 spirit stones without hesitation. How can I accept this? Looking at the 10,000 spirit stones lying in the mustard seed bag, Wu Diao's eyes almost popped out of his head. In fact, with his current net worth, it was definitely far more than this amount, but his nature was somewhat avaricious. Once he saw the spirit stones he couldn't move. "Brother Wu, please accept it. Otherwise I will feel bad." "TSK, Brother Xingji is really generous." Wu Diao smiled as he accepted the spirit stones and handed the invitation to Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi opened it and saw that the auction was going to start the day after tomorrow. "Brother Xingji, if you really want to gain something from the auction, it's best to exchange for more spirit stones in the next 2 days. Although you can use items to exchange for spirit stones, the price will be lowered to the lowest." "It's not worth it," Wu Diao suggested. Leng Shiqi thought about it and agreed. He originally had a lot of spirit stones, but he had spent a portion of them in the past few days. He only had about 250,000 spirit stones left. This was a huge amount for a spirit aperture realm cultivator. However, there were no ordinary people in the auction. If he really encountered a cultivation method that he wanted and didn't have enough spirit stones, it would be too miserable. After that, he went to the inner city with Wu Diao. While he gained a lot of knowledge, he also exchanged some of his idle resources for spirit stones. Now he had a total of 350,000 spirit stones. This gave him a lot of confidence. In the next 2 days, everything went on as usual. The 29 Guards Division was also repaired. Leng Shiqi also specially instructed him to set up formations in the meeting hall and the martial arts arena. In addition, he also built a secret room for him to cultivate in. 2 days later, the Celestial Treasure House's auction finally began. Chapter 525. The Celestial Treasure Firm was one of the most famous firms in the Thunderous Dynasty. Not only was their business spread throughout the Thunderous Dynasty, they could even be seen in the other 2 dynasties. It was said that the background of the Celestial Treasure Firm was not simple. It was said that there was once an expert at the unity of heaven and man realm who caused trouble at an auction. In the end, his corpse was found a few days later. The corpse was found in the city. A person at the unity of heaven and man realm was actually killed so silently. One could imagine how terrifying the strength of the person who killed him was. Since then, no one dared to cause trouble at any auction held by the Celestial Treasure Firm, regardless of the scale. On this day, Leng Shiqi and Wu Diao walked into the Celestial Treasure Firm's auction together. When they entered, they saw that the place was as big as a football field. The decorations were grand and magnificent. When they entered, there were already over 1,000 people seated. The 2 of them found their seats and sat down. At the same time, they continued to look around. The most eye-catching thing was the high platform that took up a quarter of the venue and the private rooms that surrounded the venue. Wu Diao looked at the uniquely shaped private rooms with envy. "Brother Xingji, those private rooms can't be entered just because you have money. Take us, the Dark Thunder Guards, as an example. At the very least, you have to be at the level of a vice manager to have the qualifications to get a private room." Leng Shiqi estimated that there were over 100 private rooms. Currently, more than half of them were already occupied. Sure enough, there were too many high officials and nobles in the imperial city. The 2 of them had only been in the imperial city for a short period of time, so they only knew a few people. However, the others all knew each other. Whether it was because they were close or because they had some grudges, the entire venue was filled with chatter. At this moment, all the voices suddenly quieted down. Leng Shiqi and Wu Diao looked towards the entrance at the same time. There, a group of people walked in. The leader was a handsome young man. He held a folding fan in his hand and had an elegant demeanor. His handsome face had a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. His every movement was filled with nobility. There were 3 people behind the young man. 2 of them were maids and a guard. What was shocking was that the 2 maids were at the spirit aperture realm. Looking at the expressionless guard, they were shocked to see that he was an expert at the unity of heaven and man realm. Just who was this young man? That's the 13th prince. The 13th prince has returned to the imperial capital? It's said that the 13th prince's mother passed away, and he took the initiative to stay by her coffin for 3 years. I didn't expect 3 years to pass so quickly. Oh my god, the 13th prince is so handsome and filial. If I could marry him, I would be willing to die. Some of the people around began to whisper, and Leng Shiqi heard many of them. He also knew the identity of the young man. However, he did not expect the Prince of Dynasty to attend the auction. TSK. Brother Xingji, look at this prince's temperament. It's really different from others. Wu Diao shook his head and said enviously. Leng Shiqi did not show any emotion. How many princes can there be in this world? Moreover, nobles and generals all have their own statuses. Maybe Brother Wu can make these princes bow their heads to you in the future. Wu Diao looked at Leng Shiqi in surprise and muttered to himself, nobles and generals all have their own statuses. Nobles and generals all have their own statuses. The 13th prince was led into a private room. Wherever he passed, everyone took the initiative to open up a wide path for him. This was their respect for the royal family. After the 13th prince walked into the private room, the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone was discussing why he had come to the auction. Perhaps there really was something unexpected this time. Leng Shiqi did not bother to pay attention to them. He only needed to get 1 or 2 suitable level 5 cultivation methods. Even if there was some amazing treasure, it had nothing to do with him. After that, many important people came, but they were not as important as the 13th prince. Wu Diao recognized a few of them and introduced them to Leng Shiqi one by one. Look at that little old man. His name is Wanyang Yun. Don't be fooled by his appearance. He is an expert of the imperial family's hall of worship. His cultivation is shocking. And that fat girl. She is the daughter of the current prime minister. Although her appearance is ordinary, she is a famous genius in the imperial family. She is not even 30 years old, but she is already at the spirit aperture realm. As for that yellow-robed man who just came, he is even more powerful. He is one of the 4 punishment envoys of the Discipline Commission Guxiao. It is said that he has an ambiguous relationship with Lei Mayan. About an hour later, the doors of the auction hall closed. Leng Shiqi glanced around. Just the people sitting below were over 10,000. At this moment, the stage flashed with layers of dazzling lights. A shrewd man with a goatee walked out. It's Ouyang Hong Kai, one of the few master appraisers of the Thunder Flame Imperial family. With him here, we can rest assured about the items in this auction. Ouyang Hongkai's appearance caused quite a commotion. He was brimming with smiles as he said, "Everyone, we are all old friends. I will not waste time on idle chatter. The auction will now begin." Just as he finished speaking, a pillar of light rose up from the stage. A specially shaped flower appeared. 4th tier material, clear moon flower. It can be used to refine pills with Yin attributes. It can also be used to refine tools. Even if it is placed in a room, it will have a calming effect. The starting price is 3,000 spirit stones. Each bid must not be lower than 500 spirit stones. Leng Shiqi only glanced at it and lost interest. His lack of interest did not mean that others would not be interested. Soon he remembered the rising bids. The price soared until it was finally won by a young man for 8,000 spirit stones. The young girl beside him immediately beamed with joy. This clear moon flower might not be an overly precious material, but it was still quite good to make a beauty smile. Thinking of this, Leng Shiqi suddenly remembered that he still had something from the Delta Origi that he had not given her. Ever since he came to the imperial capital, he had not been idle. In his busy schedule, he had almost forgotten about this matter. At the same time, he also remembered that Ink Frost Ghost Man had arranged 3 people for him. Those 3 people would appear at an appropriate time. He did not know what time it would be. Time slipped away while Leng Shiqi was distracted. After an unknown period of time, he was poked by Wu Diao. "Brother Xingji, it is now the 5th tier resources." Hearing this, he immediately became spirited. 5th tier resources are the most abundant in every auction. There will definitely be no shortage of cultivation techniques. This time, Brother Xingji will definitely get what he wants. Then I will borrow Brother Wu's auspicious words. At this moment, Ouyang Hong, who was on the high platform, took out a secret book. His face revealed a profound smile as he said, "This is the 5th level martial art, Fish and Water Joyous technique. As for its effect, I won't explain it too much. This is a rare martial art. The starting price is 20,000 spirit stones. Each bid must not be lower than 3,000 spirit stones." Chapter 526. Joyous Fish and Water Technique? Just by hearing the name, one could tell that it wasn't a proper technique. Many of the people present let out a laugh that all men understood. Pfft. Wu Diao almost burst out laughing. This name is really wonderful. Joyous Fish and Water. If you're happy, I'm happy too. Haha, wonderful, wonderful. Brother Xingji, what do you think of this technique? Do you want to buy it? We can study it together. He suddenly covered his mouth. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that we should study it separately. Originally he was just teasing him. Who would have thought that he would nod seriously and say, okay. What? Wu Diao almost thought that he had misheard. He didn't mishear. Leng Shiqi was currently staring at the screen on the stage. On it was the characteristics of the joyous fish and water technique and the spiritual cavities that could be opened. Although this was a very special technique, it was still a 5th level technique. Naturally, there were spiritual cavities that needed to be opened. Those spiritual cavities were all spiritual cavities that Leng Shiqi needed. If he could obtain this technique, he would be able to gather all the spiritual cavities. He was determined to obtain this joyous fish and water technique. At this moment, someone had already started bidding. 23,000 spirit stones. 26,000. This time, it was the youth who had bid for the clear moonflower. As soon as he said that, the young girl beside him blushed and started hammering him. This caused a burst of teasing laughter. Young man, I'm afraid that you won't be able to handle this technique. How about you give it to me? 30,000 spirit stones. A white-haired person laughed. You don't have any respect for your elders. I think you're the one who won't be able to handle it. 40,000. The people around the youth immediately retorted. It seemed that they were the youth's friends. At this moment, a voice came from the private room above. 60,000. That person only said 2 words. What was surprising was that the voice belonged to a woman. There was a girl who was interested in this technique. Many people had a strange feeling in their hearts, but there were also people who recognized the owner of the voice. She seems to be the daughter of the Prime Minister, Mo Lu. Oh, Mo Lu. This name is very suitable for the fish and water merriment technique. Ah. Someone laughed without restraint, which immediately attracted a roar of laughter. The slightly plump girl sitting in the private room was so angry that she stomped her feet. The maid beside her said, Miss, why did you buy such indecent things? Be careful that the master doesn't blame you. I want to buy it so that those people won't harm the innocent. 63,000 spirit stones. Leng Shiqi also tried to offer a price. He also found that there were not many people who really wanted this cultivation method. Most of them were just joking. But what he didn't know was that his bid had attracted Mo Yile's attention. Her gaze instantly locked onto Leng Shiqi. She immediately categorized him as a villain. She said fiercely, 80,000. As soon as she said this, the voices in the room immediately quieted down. 80,000 spirit stones had exceeded the value of a level 5 cultivation method. Generally speaking, a level 5 cultivation method was worth around 50,000 spirit stones. Mo Li's initial bid of 60,000 was barely acceptable, but now that she had opened her mouth to offer 80,000, it was not worth it. But who asked her to be the daughter of the Prime Minister? She was rich and willful. No one could control her. So everyone shut up and didn't continue to raise the price. Leng Shiqi was helpless. Mo Lu had directly increased the price by nearly 20,000 spirit stones. This meant that no matter how much he bid, he would lose. This was not the most troublesome thing for him. Now he could see that Mo Lu was deliberately disrupting the situation. She didn't want others to get the fish and water merriment technique. If he continued to bid, Mo Lu would definitely continue to follow. But he could not increase the price. He couldn't just watch this cultivation method fly away in front of his eyes. So he said, 83,000. Wu Diao secretly tugged at Leng Shiqi and whispered, Brother Xingji, are you serious? 80,000 spirit stones is a bit expensive. Also, we don't have to provoke Mo Lu. Let her have it. Mo Lu was also angry. Seeing that Leng Shiqi still dared to raise the price, she felt that he was a pervert. She said angrily, I'll bid 100,000 spirit stones. Wow. The room was immediately filled with gasps. 100,000 spirit stones might not be much to the people in the room, but no one's spirit stones came from the wind. 100,000 spirit stones to buy a level 5 cultivation method that was not very useful was too stupid. Leng Shiqi was silent. The others also felt that he would not continue to raise the price. Mo Lu smiled proudly. When I get this cultivation method, I'll tear it up. Who created this crappy cultivation method? Ouyang Hongsai's mouth was about to bloom. It was rare for the price of a level 5 cultivation method to be doubled. He could also draw a lot of commission. Miss Mo has bid 100,000 spirit stones. Is there no higher bid? Leng Shiqi was still silent. The reason he was silent was not because he had given up, but because he was playing with his mentality. At this moment, Mo Lu must have thought that victory was in her hands and was feeling proud. If he raised the price at this time, Mo Yilu would definitely go crazy. It was very likely that she would raise the price again. If it was for a real treasure, it would be fine. However, it was obviously not worth it to raise the price for such an improper cultivation method. Presumably, someone beside Mo Yilu would say something to stop it. Of course, this was only Leng Shiqi's guess, but he still had to try. Since no one wants to raise the price, then. Ouyang Hongkai said slowly. This was his usual method. Some people might still be hesitating, so he wanted to give them a chance. 103,000 spirit stones. Leng Shiqi shouted. Hearing this, all the pairs of eyes in the stadium focused on Leng Shiqi. They all looked at him strangely. Even Wu Diao's eyes widened. He couldn't believe that this was a decision made by the unusually smart Leng Shiqi. Ouyang Hongkai smiled. He really did trick someone. As for Mo Yilu, she was furious. She glared at Leng Shiqi with fire in her eyes. She wanted to eat him on the spot. Good fellow, you have money, right? Let's see who's the rich one. I want to raise it to 15. However, before she could finish, she was stopped by the maid next to her. She said earnestly, Miss, but we only have 100,000 spirit stones on us. What are you afraid of? I have a lot of things. At most, I'll just exchange them for spirit stones. Mo Yilu didn't care. The female attendant immediately revealed a difficult expression. Old Master had specially instructed that young Miss shouldn't spend money recklessly. If he were to know that young Miss used over 100,000 spirit stones to purchase a 5th-level cultivation technique, and that kind of cultivation technique at that, he would definitely fly into a rage. At that time, I'm afraid my skin will be torn open again. You. Mo Yilu's expression changed. Thinking of her strict father, she was a bit listless. However, she couldn't just let go of the Yushuayu technique. Chapter 527. Mo Yao rolled her eyes. Xiao Ai, do you think if I give him tens of thousands of spirit stones, will he continue to follow? I'm not sure. Humph, whatever, I'm sure he won't give up. Then she raised her voice and shouted, 150,000 spirit stones. If you continue to follow, I'll let you have the technique. 150,000 spirit stones. Buying a 5th-level technique? She was not crazy, she was stupid. The price had tripled. Moreover, the fish and water pleasure technique was not a top-grade technique. Whoever bought it would be stupid. When Leng Shiqi heard Mo Yao's words, he felt relieved. It seemed that he had made the right bet. Mo Yao was the apple of the Prime Minister's eye, but such a person would be strictly restricted. 100,000 spirit stones was not a small number. Generally speaking, only spirit cultivators in the spirit gang realm were qualified to take it out, let alone 150,000. He also saw that this was Mo Yao's last struggle, so he ignored the strange eyes of the people and said, 153,000. A large group of people cast all kinds of eyes again, most of which were ridiculing, but there were others who wondered if there was something special about the fish and water pleasure technique. This kind of thing had happened before. The things that had been confirmed by the appraiser actually had hidden mysteries, and in the end it was picked up by others. Some people carefully read the description of the technique on the stage, but they really did not see any mystery. It was just a relatively ordinary dual cultivation technique. There were also a few people who wanted to give it a try, but when they thought of the high price of 150,000 spirit stones, they retreated. This guest has bid 153,000 spirit stones. Is there anyone who wants to compete again? Ouyang Hongcai's mouth was almost crooked. This time the price of the technique had tripled and he could receive a lot of shares. He asked 3 times in a row and still no one increased the price, so he made the final decision. In this case, I announce that the fish and water pleasure technique belongs to this guest. Please go backstage for the transaction. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was finally relieved. 150,000 spirit stones was indeed far beyond his budget, but as long as he could gather all the 360 spiritual cavities in his body, he would buy it even if it was 300,000. A young girl walked in front of him and bowed. Young master, please follow me. Leng Shiqi left the already demented Wu Diao here and went to a secret room in the backstage of the auction amidst a burst of laughter. The young girl smiled sweetly and said, Don't worry, young master. There are dozens of restrictions in this room, so there won't be any accidents. This is the secret manual of the fish and water pleasure technique. Mister, please take a look. As she spoke, the girl took out the secret manual that was previously placed on the high platform. Leng Shiqi glanced at it, and a system message that only he could see appeared in front of him. This cultivation technique was not fake. Leng Shiqi readily took out 153,000 spirit stones and successfully obtained the cultivation method. By the time he returned to his seat, the next round of bidding had already begun. The item being auctioned was still a cultivation method, but Leng Shiqi had no interest in it at all. Even after Leng Shiqi sat back down, Wu Diao was still in a daze. He was still secretly complaining in his heart. More than 150,000 spirit stones, and he wasted it just like that. What a waste, what a waste. Leng Shiqi was too lazy to care about what others thought. His trip to the auction had ended perfectly, and he didn't want to see what treasures would appear next. Rank 5 resources were of no use to him, and he couldn't afford rank 6 or even higher items. The rest of the time was just for him to broaden his horizons. As Ouyang took out more and more precious items, the bidding in the field became more and more intense. Even Wu Diao blindly joined in. However, although he also made some profits, he was still far from qualified to compete with the people here. One item after another was auctioned off. Cultivation methods, spiritual skills, spiritual weapons, medicinal pills, materials, and so on were all available. The atmosphere in the venue also became more and more lively. After Ouyang auctioned off a rare crystal stone, he deliberately remained silent for a few seconds before saying loudly, "The next item is the last item of this round. It's just that this item is a little special, please take a look." Ding 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 ding. Before they saw the item, the crowd first heard the crisp sound of a bell. They all looked over curiously and saw a carriage coming in from the side of the stage. The carriage was very beautifully decorated, and there was a huge black curtain in the middle of the carriage. The tinkling sound came from behind the black curtain. The carriage stopped steadily in the middle of the stage, and it emitted a refreshing fragrance that seeped into the nose. This aroused the crowd's curiosity. What is it that's so mysterious? This Ouyang is still keeping us in suspense. It's definitely not an ordinary item. Leng Shiqi also looked over curiously. Everyone please calm down. Ouyang kept them in suspense and then removed the black curtain on the carriage. It turned out that there was a cage under the black curtain. The cage was unusually beautiful, decorated with little flower petals and tassels. It didn't look like a cage for prisoners at all. When the crowd saw what was inside the cage, the entire venue suddenly burst into cries of surprise. There was actually a thin layer of gauze under the black curtain, and one could vaguely see the beautiful figure behind it. Although it was not real, it was not difficult to taste the taste of a peerless beauty from the gentle and graceful figure. The item this time was actually a beauty. It wasn't that this kind of thing hadn't happened in previous auctions, but it was something that small and medium-sized companies would do in order to attract attention. Auctions at the level of the Heavenly Treasure House had never done this kind of business before. However, since this woman was sent to the auction by the Heavenly Treasure House, she must be extraordinary. Ouyang said in a timely manner, "This one knows that ordinary women can't enter your eyes. This woman's name is Su Su. Not only is she beautiful, her identity is even more shocking." He suddenly tore off the last layer of white gauze, finally revealing the woman's true appearance. Looking at her from a distance, one would feel that this woman was elegant and had a sense of lightness. Looking at her carefully, one would see that she was around 16 or 17 years old. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were like clear water. She looked around with a bit of timidity and was currently shivering in the corner of the cage, making people feel pity for her. Most of the people present were a bit short of breath. Everyone loved beauty, let alone a beauty. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but praise. This Su Su was definitely one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen. She could definitely be compared to Lian Yi. He also noticed that there was a mark of an azure phoenix spreading its wings on the woman's forehead, which added a bit of mystery to her. What made him feel strange was that Su Su's figure gave him a vaguely familiar feeling. Thank you to an old man, for the 1,000 Qidian coins tip. Chapter 528. Seeing everyone's reaction, Ouyang Kai smiled. Lady Su Su isn't just for show. Everyone can check her cultivation. At the Heavenly Treasure Firm's auction, everyone agreed not to check other people's cultivation, because it was a provocative action and would inevitably cause conflict. However, since Ouyang Kai allowed it, everyone went to check Su Su's cultivation. Hiss. Immediately, the sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell. What, the 8th layer of the spirit aperture realm? How old is she? How is this possible? That Mo Yile is only at the early stage of the spirit aperture realm, she's almost 30. It's fake. Even Mo Yile herself stared with wide eyes. She was known as one of the most dazzling geniuses in the imperial capital, but now she felt ashamed. Haha, everyone believe me. Actually, when I saw Lady Susu I had the same reaction. In fact, the reason why Lady Susu has such cultivation is because... He deliberately paused. She has the Phoenix Yuan bloodline. Once he said that, the auction house fell into a dead silence. However, it was as if there was an explosion and the place was filled with noises. Ancient bloodline, the Phoenix Yuan bloodline? Impossible, the bloodline disappeared tens of thousands of years ago. That's right. According to what I know, the Phoenix Yuan bloodline was extremely rare even in the ancient times. How could it appear now? Lung Shiqi didn't know much about the Phoenix Yuan bloodline, but he himself had the bloodline. He had two bloodlines. One was the mysterious Dark Shadow clan's bloodline, and the other was still unknown. He thought to himself, if Susu really has the Phoenix Yuan bloodline, it's possible for her to reach the 8th layer of the spirit aperture realm at such a young age. However, he was confused again. If that was the case, then wasn't Susu a rare genius? How could he have fallen to the point of becoming a prisoner and being sold as a commodity? Ouyang Hongkai gestured for everyone to quiet down. He then took out a transparent tube as thick as a finger and said, "What is this? I'm sure some of you can recognize it. That's something to check the bloodline. It's been lost for a long time." An old voice came from the private room upstairs. The person who spoke was the expert from the Imperial Consecration Hall. "I admire Mr. Zhang's vision." Ouyang Hongkai flattered her a little and continued, "Whether Miss Susu has the Phoenix Yuan bloodline or not, we'll know after a test." With that, he moved his spirit force and a very thin needle appeared at the end of the tube. Then he mercilessly stabbed it into Susu's jade-like arm. Susu let out a painful groan, which made many people feel as if their hearts were being twisted by a knife. In particular, the young people felt like they had been stabbed. Of course, there were also some women here who were indignant, especially those who were accompanying their male companions. They wanted nothing more than to slap them a few times. However, a loud and clear phoenix cry suddenly rang out, and everyone's eyes immediately turned to the high platform. At this moment, a Cyan Yuan phantom that was dozens of feet large floated out from Susu's body and rushed into the clouds. It's the Qing Yuan bloodline of the Feng Yuan bloodline. Oh my god, it's actually real. Bloodline power. Is there still bloodline power in this world? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Today is really a feast for the eyes. It's not a loss at all. In the centermost room upstairs, the 13th prince's eyes lit up, and there seemed to be lightning flashing in his eyes. After a few breaths he smiled. It's only the thinnest Qing Yuan bloodline. This woman's vitality is depleted because of this bloodline. She won't be able to last more than 3 or 4 years. The maid next to him said, "A mere Qing Yuan bloodline is nothing compared to his highness's." In another room, the yellow-robed man didn't care as he drank. The youth next to him said, "Teacher, this girl is not simple. She's just playing to the gallery. She can't compare to you." The yellow-robed man patted the youth's shoulder and continued to drink. Ouyang Hongkai put away the tube and the Qing Yuan phantom disappeared. Susu seemed to have lost all her strength and fell to the ground. Even her hands were slightly twitching. He said, "I'm sure everyone knows Miss Susu's value. There's no low price for this auction. The minimum increment is 20,000 spirit stones." The minimum increment was 20,000. This was the highest price among all the items up for auction, but everyone's eyes still lit up. Whether it was bringing Susu back to be cultivated, studied, or turned into a slave, she was a very good choice. However, no one bid. This was because everyone had a question in their hearts. Someone like Susu who had an ancient bloodline was someone that even the top sex would fight to recruit. With a little bit of training she could become a genius. In the future she would at least be a great expert at the Unity of Heaven realm. However, why would such a peerless genius with unparalleled beauty be reduced to a commodity? Ouyang Hongkai, there's something fishy about this girl. Someone in the room said bluntly. He also said what everyone was thinking. Ouyang Hongkai laughed dryly. As the saying goes, no one is perfect. In fact, Miss Susu is suffering from a strange illness. I'm afraid she doesn't have much time left. Once this was said, everyone let out dissatisfied voices. After all this time, it turned out that she was just a defective product? However, even so, Susu's beauty was enough to attract people. Her bloodline could also be studied, but time was limited. If it really didn't work, Even being a beautiful bodyguard at the spirit aperture realm was not bad. Therefore, after a moment of silence, there were still people who couldn't help but bid. Moreover, the increase in price was quite large. Leng Shiqi stared blankly at Su Su, as if his soul was about to leave his body. Seeing this, Wu Diao secretly laughed. Brother Xingji, you just won the pleasure of fish and water technique. You can bring Miss Su Su back to enjoy the happiness of family. In fact, Leng Shiqi had the same intention. However, he didn't mean it the way Wu Diao thought. The reason why he was stunned was because he saw Su Su secretly make a hand gesture before she fell to the ground. That was the highest level code in the Bloodseed plan. It meant that she was one of them. This Su Su was the person that the Ink Frost Ghoul man arranged for Leng Shiqi. He never expected that she would appear in such a way. However, he was also very confused as to how the Ink Frost Ghoul man knew that he would participate in this auction. What if Wu Diao didn't help him get an invitation? Wouldn't he miss this opportunity? Moreover, with his current wealth, he might not be able to compete with others. If Su Su was bought by someone else, would he have to go and snatch her? However, what shocked him even more was that after confirming that Su Su was one of them, the more he looked at Su Su, the more familiar she looked. When he thought of the name Su Su and the Qing Wan bloodline, a figure gradually overlapped with Su Su. That was his senior sister, Su Wan. Whether it was their figure, characteristics, or cultivation, Su Su and Su Wan were very similar. In addition, the Ink Frost Ghoul man also mentioned that the three people that were arranged for Leng Shiqi were related to him. Now, Leng Shiqi could confirm that Su Su was Su Wan. However, Leng Shiqi had a headache because the price was already as high as 120,000 spirit stones. He still had about 200,000 spirit stones left. This was a huge sum outside, but it was clearly far from enough if he wanted to bring Su Wan back. He looked at Wu Diao, who was enjoying the show, and asked, "Brother Wu, how many spirit stones do you have?" "Chem? What did you say?" Wu Diao was so excited that he didn't pay attention to what Leng Shiqi had said. He had no choice but to repeat himself. Wu Diao's expression stiffened as if he thought of something. Then, his eyes slowly widened and his expression became strange. "No way, no way." He shook his head frantically. "Brother Xingji, you're not really planning on participating in the auction, are you?" "That's exactly what I was thinking. Unfortunately, I don't have enough spirit stones on me, so I'm planning on asking Brother Wu to be generous," Leng Shiqi said seriously. He didn't seem to be joking at all. After Wu Diao recovered from his surprise, he remembered that in the Minor Chaos Paradise, Leng Shiqi had also left the Blood Moon without paying any price. He was now certain that Leng Shiqi was someone who liked women. Thus, he was secretly happy that he had found Leng Shiqi's hobby. This way, it would be much easier to interact with him in the future. He immediately took out his mustard seed bracelet and said, "Brother Xingji, I have about 50,000 spirit stones here. I'll lend them all to you. However, even though we're friends, I'll still charge you interest. 140,000. 160,000. As they spoke, the price continued to rise. Leng Shiqi didn't hesitate. "Brother Wu, don't worry. Chapter 529. With 50,000 more spiritual stones, Leng Shiqi finally had some confidence. He knew that 250,000 spiritual stones was still not enough, but at least he was qualified to bid. He bid 180,000 spiritual stones. As soon as he opened his mouth, the people around him noticed him. "Hey, is this the guy who bought the fish water joy technique with 150,000 spiritual stones?" "That's him. He's interested in Miss Susu again. TSK, it's good to be young." Judging from the current price, it would take at least 300,000 spiritual stones to take Miss Susu away. How many spiritual stones does this guy have? Look, he's wearing the Dark Thunder Guard inspector's uniform. He must have gotten a lot. TSK dog. Mo Yile also saw Leng Shiqi bid again. She immediately gnashed her teeth in hatred. She didn't care about anything else and directly shouted, "I bid 200,000 spirit stones." This time, the maid didn't stop her because she knew that 200,000 spiritual stones was definitely not enough. Her mistress just wanted to raise the price to vent her anger. Leng Shiqi didn't raise the price again. Instead, he called a nearby maid. "What can I do for you, young master?" "I want to exchange something for spiritual stones," Leng Shiqi whispered. He had no other choice. The price continued to soar. Even if Wu Diao lent him 50,000 spiritual stones, it wouldn't be enough. He could only use his various resources to exchange for spiritual stones. Fortunately, he had accumulated a lot of resources. Before coming to the auction, he sold some of the things he didn't need. Now, most of the things he had left were materials for refining awakening pills and some commonly used pills. At this point, he could only reluctantly sell these things. However, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He thought of another way. He secretly opened the system interface and saw that he still had more than 5,000 system coins. He smiled secretly. Leng Shiqi was quickly led to another room. This time, there was already an elegant middle-aged man sitting inside. "Guest, please take a seat. I'm an appraiser of the Celestial Treasure Firm. What do you want to exchange for spiritual stones?" To the Celestial Treasure Firm, any method of exchanging spirit stones at an auction was very popular. This was because if one wanted to exchange for spirit stones, they would definitely lack spirit stones. Thus, the Celestial Treasure establishment would lower the price of the item to the lowest and resell it for a profit. Leng Shiqi was pressed for time. He had to get back before the end of the auction. Without saying a word, he waved his hand and placed several items on the table in front of him. There were a total of 6 items. When the appraiser saw them, he immediately revealed a puzzled expression. To be able to be invited by the Heavenly Treasure Firm to be an appraiser, he must have a vast knowledge of the world's rare items. However, among the 6 items placed in front of him, other than the 2 5th-grade spirit artifacts, he had never seen anything else before. These 2 level 5 spirit tools are of the highest quality. I can give young master 40,000 spirit stones. As for the other items, the appraiser couldn't help but frown. Leng Shiqi was quite satisfied with the 40,000 spirit stones exchanged for the 2 level 5 spirit weapons. At least he didn't lose much. The items he took out were actually bought from the system store with system coins. The remaining 4 items were materials. 2 were of the 5th grade and 2 were of the 6th grade. They all came from other worlds. Of course, the appraiser wouldn't have seen them before. However, the appraiser could roughly tell the quality of the materials, but the price wasn't easy to give. If it was a material he recognized, he could give the lowest price. However, he didn't recognize the material, so how could he give a price? But if he were to invite other appraisers, then wouldn't he lose all his face? Since that was the case, he pretended to look at the items for a while and said tentatively, 2 5th-grade materials can be exchanged for 36,000 spirit stones. 2 6th-grade materials are worth 220,000 spirit stones. Together, 256,000 spirit stones. How about that? Leng Shiqi immediately shook his head and said, "The items I took out are extremely rare. It can be said that they can only be found by chance. If I wasn't in urgent need of spirit stones, I wouldn't take them out to sell. If you can't see the value of these items, then please find another appraiser." The appraiser's face was a little embarrassed. He said stubbornly, "Young master, are you looking down on my eyesight? Fine, these items are indeed very precious. How about this? The total price can be increased to 270,000. Leng Shiqi still shook his head. He stretched out 3 fingers and said, 300,000. 300,000? That's impossible. The appraiser's expression also darkened. Leng Shiqi coldly snorted. A colorful light flashed in his eyes. "You have eyes but you can't see. Selling to you for 300,000 is already a big loss for me. Forget it, let's find another appraiser." In the appraiser's eyes, he seemed to see himself being disgraced, being pointed at by his peers, and finally being ostracized. His mind was unstable. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, 300,000 it is." Not long after, Leng Shiqi returned to his seat with 550,000 spirit stones. At this time, the price had reached 260,000. Leng Shiqi secretly rejoiced that he had gone to exchange for spirit stones in advance. If he had waited until now, it would have been too late. When Wu Diao saw Leng Shiqi walking back with a straight back, he knew that Leng Shiqi had gained something. "Brother Xingji, there aren't many people bidding now. There's also good news. No one from the private rooms upstairs is bidding. The people in the box upstairs were all extraordinary people. As long as they did not bid, the price would not be too outrageous." After sitting down, Leng Shiqi was not in a hurry to bid. Instead, he was going to wait and see what price several people could offer now. After 260,000, someone raised the price to 280,000 after a while. At this point, the venue quieted down. 280,000 spirit stones. Even a master of Gang Spirit Realm might not be able to take out so many spirit stones. With so many spirit stones, one could hire several guards of Spirit Aperture Realm for a long time. Even if one took it to a brothel, it would be enough to squander for a long time. As for Su Su's Qinghuan bloodline, it was useless for ordinary people. And those who wanted to study the power of bloodline had their own concerns. That was, if a person with such aptitude like Su Su could be sold, then her bloodline might have some defects. Therefore, many people gradually gave up on this idea. After all, 300,000 spirit stones was something that even they would lose a piece of meat. More importantly, they knew that there was a very important treasure in this auction. That was their real goal. Spending 300,000 spirit stones for a woman would cause them to miss the final treasure. That was not worth the loss. For a while no one bid. Ouyang Hongkai was about to speak when Leng Shiqi's voice came, 300,000. Swish, 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 all eyes turned to him. When they saw that it was Leng Shiqi who bid, there was a lot of laughter in the venue. Chapter 530. Leng Shiqi first bought the fish and water joy technique at a high price, and now he wanted to take Su Su away. Everyone knew what he wanted to do. Mo Lu said with disgust, "This person is still haunting us. If Miss Su Su falls into his hands, she will definitely be ruined. But young miss, you can't raise the price anymore. If that person doesn't increase the price, we can't just take a girl back." "I know you talk too much." Ouyang Hong saw that it was Leng Shiqi who made the bid and smiled evilly. "This young master is bidding 300,000, is there no higher bid?" 320,000 spirit stones. A young man with a jade face spoke. He was the one who bid from the beginning. It seemed like he was determined to take Su Su away. Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed and he shouted, 400,000. "Brother Xingji, are you crazy?" Wu Diao jumped up as if his tail had been stepped on. Aside from shock, there was also pain on his face. The others were also speechless. They secretly thought that Leng Shiqi was a hothead. How could he waste money like this? It was obvious that the other bidder was struggling. As long as he slowly increased the price, he wouldn't need to spend 400,000 to get Su Su. However, there were also people who were surprised by his wealth. A mere Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator could take out so many spirit stones. It was obvious that he wasn't simple. The young man who just bid was also stunned. He didn't expect Leng Shiqi to raise the price to 400,000. 400,000 spirit stones was enough to buy 10 rank 5 resources, and several rank 6 resources. This number made the young man hesitate. The reason why Leng Shiqi did this was to completely dispel any thoughts of his opponent. Ouyang Hong slowly said, "If it doesn't exceed 400,000 spirit stones, Miss Su Su will be this young master's." His gaze was always on the other young man. Right now, he was the only one who was willing to continue bidding. However, the young man sighed and gave up on bidding. "Haha, let us congratulate this young master for taking the beauty home." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was finally relieved. He walked backstage under the strange gazes of the people around him. "Young master, Miss Su Su will take a while to arrive. Please wait for a moment." The maid picked up a jade slip and said, "This is the method to control the restriction in Miss Su Su's body. As long as young master moves it, she will listen to you. Let me congratulate young master for getting what you want." "Got it? You can leave now." Leng Shiqi waved his hand coldly. After a while, Su Su was sent into the room. Leng Shiqi immediately set up layers of methods to isolate the aura here. After Su Su saw Leng Shiqi, the pitiful expression on her face disappeared and was replaced with indifference. "You're pretty rich," said Su Su, or rather Su Luan. At this moment, Leng Shiqi understood why Ink Frost Ghostly Man would give him 200,000 spirit stones. It turned out that he had already made preparations. However, Ink Frost Ghostly Man never expected the price to rise to 400,000 spirit stones. Leng Shiqi bitterly smiled and said, "Senior sister, the way you appeared was too unexpected. If it wasn't for the fact that I had some resources on me, I might not have been able to outbid others." "What? You think it's a loss to buy me for 400,000 spirit stones?" Su Luan's eyes flickered with coldness. Leng Shiqi felt a chill run down his spine and hurriedly said, "Junior brother definitely didn't mean that. This isn't the place to talk. Let's talk about it when we return to my residence. Send someone to send me back first. I still have things to do on the way back." Leng Shiqi thought to himself. Since Su Luan had infiltrated the imperial capital and appeared at the auction, the other helper should be nearby. Su Luan must have gone to pass on a message to the other two. "All right. Senior sister, please wait a moment. Leng Shiqi removed the restriction and shouted outside, guards. Su Luan's expression instantly changed and she returned to her weak and easy-to-bully appearance. What orders does young master have? Two maids walked in from outside. Leng Shiqi pointed at Su Luan and said with a wicked smile, send someone to send Miss Su Luan to Dark Lightning Guard 29. Make sure to keep an eye on her. If anything happens, I won't be polite. Yes, this servant will do it right away. Then he and Su Luan looked at each other and parted ways. He went back to continue participating in the auction. Although he didn't have many spirit stones left and didn't have anything he wanted, it was still good to broaden his horizons. When he returned to his seat, he first returned Wu Diao's 50,000 spirit stones and gave him an extra 2,000 spirit stones as interest. At first, Wu Diao refused to accept it, but in the end he accepted it with a smile. After Su Luan's auction ended, the auction entered the third round, which was the auction for the rank 6 resources. This was the main event of the auction and the most important round for everyone. Rare treasures were auctioned off one after another. There were some items that even Leng Shiqi coveted, but he was embarrassingly short on funds and could only give up. After about an hour, the third round of the auction finally ended. However, everyone's expressions became even more curious and nervous. Because after the third round, there was still a fourth round. In this fourth round, even the lowest quality items were rank 7 treasures. These items were extremely rare. Generally speaking, there would only be 1 or 2 of them. These were the items that the big shots on the second floor were bidding for. The others were just here to watch the show. Ouyang Hongkai waved his hand and a black jade platform appeared beside him. On top of the platform was a spear that exuded dense demonic energy. Rank 6 Spirit Tool Deadly Demon Refining Spear. The starting price is 300,000 spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 50,000 spirit stones. This time he was very straightforward. He didn't introduce the characteristics of the spirit tool, nor did he waste any time. However, it was precisely this short sentence that caused a huge uproar. Did I hear wrong? The starting price of a rank 6 spirit tool is 300,000 spirit stones? Isn't this the fourth round? Why is it still a rank 6 resource? Is this Ouyang Hongkai confused? What the hell is the celestial treasure firm doing? Everyone, including Leng Shiqi, thought that Ouyang Hongkai might have made a mistake. However, to everyone's surprise, someone from the private room upstairs immediately made a bid. 400,000. Everyone below subconsciously looked up. Their eyes were filled with confusion. Someone actually made a bid? And 100,000 spirit stones at once. Some people were beginning to doubt their lives. 500,000. Heavens, this is one of the discipline enforcers, Tu Jingjue. Those big shots are all fighting for this deadly demon refining spear. Could it be that this thing is hiding something? Big brother 2, let me have this item. 600,000. When Wu Diao heard this voice, he said, this is the deputy commander of the patrol. I didn't notice that he was here. One by one the big shots began to bid. The price rose by 100,000, 200,000. Just hearing these numbers was enough to shock people to the core. At this moment, a gentle but dignified voice sounded. 1 million. Chapter 531. The person who spoke was the 13th prince. The moment he opened his mouth, he bid 1 million spirit stones. This immediately shocked everyone and silenced the auction hall. 1 million spirit stones wasn't much to the 13th prince. Or rather, most of the people on the second floor didn't care. However, even the 13th prince had entered the auction. It was clear that this life-stealing demon refining spear was hiding some unknown secret. Leng Shiqi quietly opened his supercilious eyes and looked through the life-stealing demon refining spear. However, he couldn't find any clues. It was just a rank 6 spirit tool. He turned to look at Wu Diao and found that he was also dumbfounded. So this auction isn't as simple as it seems. Perhaps those people in the private rooms came for the life-stealing demon refining spear. There must be some unknown secret behind this. However, what does this have to do with me? Leng Shiqi thought to himself and felt that it didn't matter. He just wanted to watch the show and see who would get the demonic spear. However, the 13th prince had already spoken. Who would dare to raise the price? After a short moment of silence, Ouyang Hongkai announced that the life-stealing demon refining spear belonged to the 13th prince. Leng Shiqi felt a bit bored. Seeing that the auction was about to end, he pulled Wu Diao away. Along the way, Wu Diao was still mumbling about how this trip was worth it. This auction is quite strange. Not only is there Miss Su Su who has the Azure Phoenix bloodline, there's also a rank 6 spirit tool worth 1,000,000 spirit stones. I've learned a lot. At the mention of Su Su, Wu Diao immediately revealed an expression that all men understood. I really don't understand romance. As the saying goes, a night of spring is worth 1,000 gold. Brother Xingji, don't worry about me. You should hurry back. Leng Shiqi felt helpless, but he still smiled mischievously. Thank you for your understanding, Brother Wu. Then I'll be leaving first. After separating from Wu Diao, Leng Shiqi didn't delay and directly returned to the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters. However, when he walked through the gate of the Dark Thunder Manor, there were people pointing at him and whispering about something. Leng Shiqi knew that Sulwan had already been sent back. His footsteps unconsciously quickened. Walking into the courtyard of the 29th Guard Division, the beautifully decorated carriage was indeed parked there. A dozen or so people were gathered in the courtyard, whispering to each other. Even He Fei-Chen was mixed in. Whispering behind their boss's back was also a method to quickly pull their relationship closer. Did you see that young lady just now? She's really a beauty. I heard that it was sent here by someone from the Celestial Treasure Enterprise? That's right. Didn't you go to the auction today? TSK as expected of my lord. A beauty of this level must cost a lot of spirit stones. But He Fei-Chen suddenly thought of something and his face became incomparably strange. He hesitated before saying, this young lady might not have been bought by Darren, perhaps she was given to you by someone else. Lu Zhao, Lu Xia, and Lu Dong's expressions also changed. They remembered that Leng Shiqi cultivated the Cold Underworld Treasure Manual, so he definitely wasn't good in that aspect. So they also believed that Leng Shiqi couldn't have bought a delicate beauty. Wasn't that just embarrassing himself? Just as they were whispering to each other, Leng Shiqi walked in. Leng Shiqi habitually concealed his spiritual aura and footsteps, but when he got closer, he could clearly hear the conversation between the few of them. Especially after hearing He Fei-Chen's words, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Who told you that cultivating the Cold Underworld Treasure Manual required entering the palace? He suddenly remembered that after Lian Yi saw through his identity in Donglin City, he used the Cold Underworld Treasure Manual to prove his innocence. At that time, Lian Ye's expression was the same as He Fei-Chen's. Leng Shiqi was about to go crazy. This misunderstanding shouldn't have been secretly spread, right? Cough cough. He couldn't help but let out a dry cough. The people who had just arrived suddenly trembled and felt a chill run down their spines. They stood in a row in panic with frightened expressions, looking very much like elementary school students who had been caught fooling around. Every single person here could be called an expert if they were brought out. Now, facing Leng Shiqi, they actually felt a kind of fear that came from their souls. The key was that Leng Shiqi's achievements in the past few days were too terrifying. First, he defeated He Fei-Chen and the others by himself. Then he killed Wei Xiangming in front of Manager Hai. When he recruited the 28 guards, he killed the chicken to warn the monkey. So now these people really respected and feared Leng Shiqi. Especially when they were just talking behind his back. Now that they were caught red-handed, if Leng Shiqi suddenly killed them, they could only blame it on their bad luck. Who would have thought that Leng Shiqi would say one word with a straight face, scram. Not only did they not feel humiliated, they even felt like they had been pardoned. They all ran away in the blink of an eye. Leng Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Of course he wouldn't kill people over such a small matter. But seeing that they were afraid of him, it meant that his previous actions were correct. Then he helplessly shook his head and walked forward to open the door to his room. Before he walked in, he smelled a faint fragrance. A young beauty was sitting at the table. It was Sulwan. Before he could say anything, Sulwan said something out of the blue. Be careful tonight. Leng Shiqi didn't understand. He first released a goo worm to set up a restriction, then said, Senior sister, what do you mean? Tonight, someone might come to cause trouble. Sulwan indifferently said. Cause trouble? This was the Dark Lightning Guard's headquarters. Who had the ability, who had the guts to cause trouble here? However, Leng Shiqi knew that this might have been Sulwan's plan. He asked, Senior sister, don't keep me in suspense. Tell me your plan. Sulwan smoothed out her hair and said, You won't be able to spend those 400,000 spirit stones because I'm just a bait. Vice Pavilion Master wants to use me to lure out the other two people and have them appear with reasonable identities. So it's like that. Then they'll be the ones causing trouble tonight? Leng Shiqi said in realization. But Suwan shook her head and said, it's not them, it's him. Only one person will appear tonight. He's quite familiar with you and wants to test your strength, so you need to prepare for battle. Leng Shiqi was even more confused. Who exactly would appear tonight? Senior sister, you have to at least tell me everything, right? Suwan changed the topic and said, you should have obtained the method for the restriction in my body. Help me undo it first. Leng Shiqi saw that Suwan wasn't willing to answer, so he couldn't force her. He could only help her undo the restriction first. Suwan then stretched her body, revealing her beautiful curves. Leng Shiqi finally realized that Suwan's figure under the blood-red robe was quite good. If you've seen enough, you can leave, Suwan said coldly. Leng Shiqi had never tried to curry favor with Suwan before. He could only turn around dejectedly. However, before he left, he still asked, Senior sister, that Yang Hong just said that you don't have much lifespan left. Is that true? Suwan's eyes flashed with a strange light. She said coldly, I don't have any Qing Wan bloodline. It's just something the vice pavilion master used to let me smoothly enter the inner city. What lifespan? It's all a lie. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's heart was secretly relieved and he walked out. After he left, Suwan's expression changed. In the end, she smiled wickedly and muttered, serves you right for burning down Formless Palace. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.